Chapter 2574. The Tulip family clansmen retreated. They left the surrounding space for Su-Yun and the others to discuss on their own. Manager, do you think they'll agree? Wire's eyes were filled with worry. Hei-Yu shrugged and smiled. They'll have to agree whether they want to or not. Huh. Wire froze. It doesn't matter if they agree or not. When I said those words, if they're smart, they should know that there's only one path left for them. Join the Tulip family. Hei-Yu looked up at the nearby Earthlings. They had no right to choose. Hei-Yu gave Su-Yen time to think it over out of respect for the Tulip family's healer. She deserved such treatment. But that didn't mean that if she refused, the Tulip family would let her go. If this healer had someone supporting her, in other words, even if the Tulip family happened to meet this life healer in the universe and she rejected the Tulip family could only let her leave. They would even provide some resources and money to form a good relationship, because no one knew what kind of person owed a healer a favor. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even a king-ranked healer in the universe would owe her a favor. Healers existed. They were more valuable than pill masters in the universe, and harder to provoke. Behind any healer stood countless people. Provoking them was equivalent to provoking a hornet's nest. What a pity Su-Yen was in a native star system. Hei-Yu didn't need to worry about that. She only had two choices: submit or die. Of course, Hei-Yu didn't want to kill her. He couldn't bear to. Half an hour. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. Soon, the time Hei-Yu gave Su-Yen was up. Hei-Yu had no choice but to walk up. What do you think, Madame Su-Yen? Can you let go of my friend first? Su-Yen glanced at the great sage. Hei-Yu smiled and nodded. He gave his subordinates a look to let go of the great sage. Almost instantly, the great sage raised his staff and was about to strike when he suddenly froze. A huge survival base abruptly appeared in the universe. The Tulip family clansmen were so shocked by this sudden scene that they could not react for a moment. In Shang and the others rushed towards the survival base. Su-Yen, go in. Su-Yun frowned and shouted, but Su-Yen still hadn't entered the survival base. The time spent in the survival base was fleeting. Su-Yun and the others had also discussed this timing. They wanted to take advantage of the Tulip family members' lack of time to react. By now, the Tulip family members had already recovered from their shock. If the survival base was still in space, it was very likely that it would be taken away by them. Su-Yun grabbed the survival base and turned to look at Su-Yan's face. Why don't you go in? I can't go in. Su-Yen shook her head. Naturally, she had her own thoughts. If she didn't go in, Su-Yun might still be alive. But if she entered the survival base, she was sure. In order for the human race on Earth to leave the Milky Way galaxy, he could fight to the death. I know what you're thinking. Su-Yen sent him a voice transmission. Don't worry about me. You saw it just now, they aren't willing to make a move on me. I can stay outside and heal your injuries. If you think that you can fight your way out in this situation, then my existence will not be a burden, but a help. You. Su-Yun let out a deep sigh. In the end, he still did not say what he wanted to say. He didn't know why. Perhaps it was because he had seen too much, or perhaps because he was older, he had lost his previous frankness. He had already habitually suppressed some of his words in his heart. He also started to understand Yi Zichen. Back then, there were many times when Yi Zichen hid his words and did not say them. Back then, he did not understand. But now he understood. The path they were going to take was a lonely one. If only Yi Zichen was here. Then, they might truly understand each other's thoughts. Survival base. Hei-Yu nodded lightly. He looked at the survival base that had just appeared like a flash in the pan and smiled. It seems like you guys prepared to leave the Milky Way galaxy a long time ago. How is it? Madame Su-Yen, your friends seem to be safe. What do you think? I don't think you will reject us, right? Su-Yen stood silently behind Su-Yun. A long sword suddenly appeared in Su Yun's hand. Your decision disappoints me. Heiyu let out a long sigh, then retreated. The 3 peak-level team leaders all stood up. Don't hurt the life healer. Understood. A huge battle was about to erupt. Su Yun fought against the 3 peak-level experts of the Tulip family by himself. During this period of time, Su Yan was not in any danger at all. When the Tulip family members attacked, I was a bit fearful, as if the energy shockwaves would affect Su Yan. Noticing this, Su Yan seemed to have become a lot more confident. Su Yan seemed to grow more confident. She no longer stood behind Su Yun, but gradually moved closer to his side to encircle him. Seeing Su Yan approach, the Tulip family experts became even more fearful. Manager, we can't continue like this. Wire's gaze darkened. Look, that native is fighting with more and more vigor, while our people are already. You don't understand them at all. Heiyu smiled. The 3 of them are people I groomed. Take your time and watch. The show is just beginning. Bro, I feel like there's something wrong with your body. Su Yan, who was in the middle of healing Su Yun, suddenly sent a voice transmission. She had received feedback from the light of life she had injected into Su Yun's body. There was an unfamiliar energy lurking within Su Yun's body. Furthermore, every time he came into contact with the Tulip family, this energy would accumulate to a certain extent. Bro, you can't come into contact with them anymore. Just as Su Yun's sword was about to fall, Su Yan grabbed his arm. At that moment, the man wielding the twin hammers came down. Su Yun's gaze sharpened and he hugged Su Yan, using his back to block the hammer. Just as the hammer came down, a strand of cosmic power entered his body. This strand of cosmic power seemed to detonate the stored energy within Su Yun's body. Boom! The stored energy instantly exploded. The impact wreaked havoc within Su Yun's body. Cough, cough. Su Yun coughed up blood uncontrollably. Su Yan hurriedly pressed her palm against his body and poured her life force into him. For some reason, the ever-victorious life force was unable to repair the damage within Su Yun's body. Did you see that? Heiyu finally smiled. How could 3 peak-level fighters fight against a Universe Stage 8 for so long? If they wanted to, if any one of them went all out, that sword-wielding native wouldn't be their match. But I was worried that something would happen to that life healer. That's why I warned them from the start to retract their power, to make that native feel like they had a chance of winning and that his life wasn't in danger. Only then would that life healer not use himself as a shield to obstruct our people. Every time they attacked, they would leave a seed of energy within that sword-wielding native's body. This is a secret technique our clan's ancestor obtained while adventuring in the universe. Accursed Seed. Chapter 2575. Any contact. No matter if it's direct or indirect, there'll always be a seed planted. In the beginning, they won't notice anything. By the time they do, it'll already be too late. All they need to do is inject a strand of cosmic power into the seed and detonate it. The seed will transform into a curse that will spread throughout their entire body. Even life force won't be able to heal it. Heiyu watched as the blood Su Yun coughed up turned from red to black. Su Yun coughed up blood uncontrollably. That was because the power of the curse in his body had been destroying the insides of his body. Big brother! Su Yan's eyes were filled with anxiety as her life force failed to heal him. What's wrong with my big brother? Save my big brother. I'm willing to go back with you. You're putting me in a tough spot, Heiyu rubbed his face. It would have been fine if it was earlier, but the curse chains have already reached his neck. It'll be hard to save him now. Then I'll die. Su Yan glared. Ha ha ha. Heiyu laughed inexplicably. It's been a long time since I've heard someone threaten others with their own death. Su Yan, do you really think your death can threaten us? You can die. I can pretend I've never seen you, the life healer. It might be a bit of a pity for my family, but it won't affect my family. Your existence is to my family. It's just icing on the cake, not providing timely help. Even if you die, your clansmen might suffer too. I'll be angry if you die, so I can only vent my anger on your clansmen. Yu's expression was playful. Using one's own life to threaten others was the stupidest way of thinking. You. Su Yen bit her lips. At that moment, she felt a deep sense of helplessness. Her life force wasn't omnipotent. She couldn't undo the curse. She watched as the curse chains appeared on Su Yun's arms and neck. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was too useless. If Yi Zichen was here, he definitely would have found a way. Big brother! Wake up, big brother! All Su Yen could do was pour more life energy into Su Yun's body, but the power of the curse wouldn't be consumed by life energy. What her life force could do, it was to extend Su Yun's life as long as possible. However, he could not eradicate the power of the curse. Sister. At that moment, Su Yun suddenly grabbed her arm. Stop giving me life force. I feel like I'm about to explode. The voice transmission sounded in Su Yan's mind. Su Yun raised his hand and gently caressed Su Yan's face. His chin was covered in black blood, and he smiled. Brother. Su Yan raised her hand to wipe the blood off his face, but Su Yun grabbed her hand. Don't touch. There's a curse in this blood. With that, Su Yun shakily stood up straight in space. Don't cry. Have you forgotten who your brother is? Emperor Hades. Emperor Hades is immortal. Suddenly, Su Yun's body glowed with a deep black light. The curse chain had already crawled up to Su Yun's neck. It was instantly swallowed up by the black light. After swallowing them, the black light seemed to grow even more crystalline. A black scythe flashed between his eyebrows. Then, it returned to its original position. In the blink of an eye, the black light behind Su Yun grew deeper and deeper, until a pitch-black river suddenly appeared behind him. He reached into the river and pulled out a black longsword. Su Yun twisted his neck, a wicked smile on his face. The illusory image of the Grim Reaper wielding a sickle. Then, it materialized behind him. The blade spun twice in his palm, then he swung it out. His arm hung by his side as he stood proudly in the sky. The instant he swung the sword, a ray of sword light descended. A small planet in space was directly cut in half. Thank you for feeding me. Su Yun smiled and looked at Yu, as well as the countless Tulip family clansmen behind her. At the same time, the Tulip family clansmen stared at the longsword in Su Yun's hand, the illusory Grim Reaper behind him, and the river of bones and black swords. They shuddered. You survived. Yu frowned. It's a curse. It really is a high-level curse. You might not know, but when it comes to curses, I'm the ancestor of curses for Emperor Hades' bloodline. Su Yun smiled and shrugged. His smile was somewhat demonic. Yu's gaze darkened. He actually felt his heart palpitate from Su Yun's body. He was at the peak of the universe. How could he be afraid of someone in the 8th layer? Was it because of the illusory Grim Reaper behind him? A sickle in hand. That was a martial soul. What was Emperor Hades' bloodline? He'd never even heard of it. Kill him. Yu's heart grew cold. He frowned, and the Tulip family clansmen swarmed out. Follow me closely. I'll take you out. All right. Su Yen nodded lightly. Su Yun smiled warmly, but the instant he turned, his smile froze. Black light flashed. As Su Yun swung his black sword, the Grim Reaper behind him swung its sickle as well, harvesting the lives of the Tulip family clansmen like wheat. The dead clansmen. Wisps of mist-like energy flowed out of their bodies and into the river behind Su Yun. As the mist increased, Su Yun's black sword grew brighter and brighter. The Grim Reaper behind him grew darker and darker, and the river behind him seemed to grow longer as well. Administrator. We can't let him keep killing like this. Let the 3 of us go. The muscular man with the twin hammers transmitted. No. Yu shook his head. I can't let you go. Administrator, if this continues, we'll all be dead, the muscular man shouted. The burly man shouted. Hayu furrowed his brows. What if you guys die too? The administrator. Even if everyone here dies, I won't let the three of you die. Understand? Hayu glared, his eyes bloodshot. But if this goes on, everyone will die. Then let them die. Hayu's face was ashen. The muscular man sighed. Bro, you, let us go. Aye. Let us go. Hayu silently looked at the three standing in front of him, then slowly closed his eyes. Are you confident? We'll only know if we fight. Didn't you teach us that, bro, you? The muscular man grinned, then swung his hammers. Let's go. Hayu silently watched as the three charged out. He clenched his fists tightly. Bro. Those three are coming. Su Yen shouted from behind Su Yun. Seeing the three charging at him, Su Yun's lips curled into a smile. His finger swept across the edge of his sword. You just gave me a generous gift. The sword glowed with black light. It left Su Yun's hand, then transformed into hundreds of illusory images. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Go! Chapter 2576. The illusory swords formed a ring. The illusory black swords faced the Tulip clan's three squad leaders. When the sword shadows swept out, these black sword shadows seemed to draw long rivers in space. The darkness was accompanied by a wisp of strangeness that made one's heart palpitate. Don't worry about the swords. Charge. The burly man with the twin hammers in his hands suddenly began to swell up. In less than 3 breaths, his body was more than twice as strong as before. The two hammers merged into one. Once the hammers were in his hands, a round shield appeared in his left. Cosmic energy poured into him. The simple round shield glowed with blue light, transforming into an enormous shield of spiritual light. He charged at the very front, blocking all of the illusory black sword. Go! The 3 squad leaders cooperated with great rapport. Standing behind Su Yun, Su Yen stared intently at the 2 squad leaders charging at them. They're coming. You're pretty good, huh? Surrounded by black light, Su Yun's lips curled into a smile. Then, he suddenly tossed his black sword into the air. He clenched 2 fingers on his right hand, then raised them high into the air. In an instant, the countless black swords in the river Styx behind him seemed to receive some sort of summons. They trembled violently, then flew out of their sheaths. Clear a path for me. Behind each of the swords, there seemed to be an illusory figure of a soul-like existence. The illusory spirits gripped the swords and charged at the Tulip clan. It didn't matter how the Tulip clan tried to defend. 30,000 clansmen. How could they possibly stand up to 30 million Nether soldiers? The army of Netherworld soldiers marched forward bravely. Emperor Su Yun followed behind them, his hand pressed against his chest. Bro? Su Yen, who'd been paying close attention to Su Yun's condition, frowned. She hurriedly patted his shoulder, sending the light of her life into him. Bro, you have to curse. Don't say anything, stay calm. Su Yun followed behind the infernal soldiers like a king on a personal expedition, his hands clasped behind his back. His eyes brimmed with confidence and arrogance. This curse is far more powerful than I thought. The river Styx can't even devour it all. Then what do we do? Su Yen panicked. Stay calm. Su Yun repeated what he had said before. At present, the leader of the Tulip family does not know my depth. He does not know that the curse has not been removed. We have to continue walking calmly like this. If he really finds any clues, we'll be in trouble. You have to curse. Curses are easy to deal with. Su Yun smiled. Trust me. This is a small problem for me. Right now, the most important thing is to leave the Milky Way. The most important thing is to get you out of here. Big brother. Su Yun patted Su Yan's head when he saw her dejected expression. It's a pity that I didn't get to see your child with Yezi. We'll be able to see them after we get out of here. They're at Leaf's place on Blue River Planet. Su Yen pursed her lips. She didn't know why, but she felt a trace of pity from Su Yun's tone. It was as if he was pitying himself. Brother, you'll be fine, right? How could anything happen to me? Su Yun laughed and shrugged, then patted Su Yan's head. I've told you many things. I'm fine. You don't need to worry at all. Don't worry, I'll definitely get you out of the Milky Way. Up ahead, the River Styx's soldiers and the Tulip family clansmen were locked in battle. The soldiers did not fear death. Once their souls were severed by the Tulip family clansmen, they would return to the River Styx. Not long after, they would be able to rejoin the battle. Simply put, they were unkillable. Little did they know that these netherworld soldiers weren't truly immortal and indestructible. They were depleting the River Styx's energy reserve. In less than 5 minutes, the Netherworld River had used up more than 20% of the Underworld Emperor's inheritance, which had been stored for millions of years. Administrator, there's something strange about the river behind that native. Wei frowned as she watched from afar. I know. Heiyu furrowed his brows. How could he not know that something was strange about the river? He also knew that the Tulip family clansmen would die in battle. After dying in battle, he would become the native subordinate and wield the butcher's knife against the Tulip family. But now that things had come to this, it was already too late. If this goes on, they'll kill their way out, said Wei. Can you shut up? Inexplicably, Heiyu tilted his head and looked at Wei. You think I don't know? Could it be that I am blind? Do I need you to remind me over and over again? As he spoke, Heiyu's arms trembled uncontrollably. The way he saw it, Wei simply didn't know when to stop. She couldn't tell that he was upset, and yet he kept jabbering on and on. Couldn't he see that Su Yun and the others were about to reach the Milky Way's dark spot? He could see it. He knew very well that in less than 10 minutes, they'd most likely leave through the dark spot. Wei bit her lip and lowered her head at Heiyu's scolding. Heiyu stared fixedly ahead. By now, he no longer cared whether or not Su Yun and the others were about to leave the Milky Way. Right now, all he wanted was for his subordinates to survive. You guys get back here. Let them go. Heiyu transmitted through clenched teeth. The man with the twin hammers immediately followed suit. No. Bro, over 20,000 of our elites died. They were all elites of the clan. If the clan condemns you, how will you explain yourself? We must keep the life healer. Only if she stays will you be able to make up for your mistakes. No need. Heiyu glared. I order you to come back right now. Before Heiyu could finish his transmission, he suddenly discovered that his transmission had been rejected by the 3 squad leaders. Then, the 3 squad leaders attacked even more viciously. We're almost there. Bro, we're about to leave. From where they were, they could roughly see the location of the dark spot in the Milky Way. Leave the life healer behind. The hammer-wielding man descended from the sky. Behind Su Yun, countless black swords appeared to block his attack. Su Yun definitely wouldn't come into direct contact with them. He knew very well. Even if it was just a single collision, they could sense that Su Yun's curse hadn't been completely dispelled. When that happened, they would be even more confident. Their attacks would be even more crafty and vicious. As for before they left the Milky Way, he couldn't let them know about this. He had to bring Su Yen out. He had to. Speechlessly, he charged towards the dark spot for a few more minutes. His River Styx's energy was being consumed faster and faster. He'd already used up half of it. Kill them. We must keep the life healer behind. Countless Tulip clansmen charged forward without any regard for their lives. The River Styx's soldiers also charged forward valiantly. At that moment, Su Yan's arm was suddenly grabbed by Su Yun. Bro? Before she could react, Su Yun tossed her out. There were still 3 survival bases in between. In the dark spot, the East Royal Arch, who had disappeared without a trace since the beginning, suddenly appeared outside the dark spot in space. He caught the survival base, then grabbed Su Yan's wrist and steadied her in space. "Take my sister away. I'll stop them," Su Yun shouted, glaring. The East Royal Emperor froze, then let out a deep sigh. Live. Grabbing Su Yan's wrist, the East Royal Emperor charged out of the dark spot with her. At that moment, Su Yan understood everything. Why did Su Yun's tone contain a trace of sorrow and pity? He'd already decided to stay here from then on. Bro! During this time, the East Royal Emperor had already dragged Su Yan into the dark spot. Until now. Only then did a relaxed smile appear in Su Yun's eyes. Soon. His smile grew infinitely larger. He threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Leave the life healer behind. The 3 squad leaders chased after him. The river Styx behind Su Yun instantly blocked the coordinates of the dark spot. A black longsword fell into his hand. He looked at the Tulip clansman contemptuously. "You want to capture my little sister? You're not qualified. Kill him." The 3 squad leaders' eyes were bloodshot. Su Yun looked up at the Milky Way. Hold on for half an hour. As long as he could hold on for half an hour, Su Yan and the others would be safe. At that time, even if the Tulip clansmen killed their way out, they wouldn't be able to locate Su Yan and the others. Su Yun took a deep breath and swung his sword. "As long as I'm alive, you can forget about leaving the Milky Way galaxy." Chapter 2577. 8 Trigrams Diagram. The flaming beast continued to wreak havoc in the room. At that moment, the ground was already covered in scorching lava. There was practically no ground to stand on, while the entire room was filled with heat. "Why isn't it coming yet?" Yi Zichen frowned as he looked at his arm. Yi Zichen had already fought against the flaming beast in front of him for several days. By relying on the defensive power of the hollow ore set, he was still able to withstand the flaming beast's attacks for a bit. Even so, Yi Zichen was already in terrible shape. Several of his bones were broken. He'd only been able to hold on until now purely out of sheer willpower. He was waiting for the secret technique to activate. However, the secret technique that allowed him to succeed in the 8 trigrams diagram did not activate. "It's coming." At that moment, a surge of power surged into Yi Zichen's arm. Yi Zichen's eyes lit up when he felt the familiar surge of power. He stopped thinking about defense and dodging. He grabbed the longsword in his hand and swung it down towards the flaming beast's head. Boom! The moment the sword landed on the beast's head, the beast that had troubled Yi Zichen for a long time was instantly torn apart. Pure fire elements scattered in the room. Lil Fire, the fire elemental fairy, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately absorbed all of the elements. It even burped after absorbing all of them. It patted its stomach in satisfaction. F***CK. Yi Zichen sat down on the floor as if he had lost all of his strength when he saw the flaming beast die. 2 years. I've been trapped in this crappy place for 2 years. His original intention was to leave the 8 trigrams diagram in the shortest amount of time possible by fighting non-stop. However, he only found out how difficult it was when he actually did it. The Tyrant of Lightning was purely lucky. The attack just now had activated the secret technique. Then, there was water, electricity and wind. It would take him a few days to defeat any tyrant. Most importantly, he would need time to recover from his injuries after that. That way, he wasted a lot of time. What's more, fighting for a long period of time was a form of torture for his willpower and mental energy. The 5 elemental fairies were unable to endure it, so they needed some time to rest. In the end, it took them 2 years to finish all the trials of the 5 elements in the 8 trigrams. Congratulations, you have passed the trial of 5 elements. Please proceed to the final area to receive the final quest reward. A stiff mechanical voice sounded out in the room. To Yi Zichen, the sound was as pleasant as the sound of nature. It was over. It was finally over. A door appeared in the fire room. Yi Zichen let out a few deep breaths and recovered his energy, then used his sword to push himself up from the ground. The 5 elements' elemental spirits also hurried forward to support him. For some reason, when Yi Zichen looked at them, they seemed to have matured quite a bit. Xiaohua, do you need some time to absorb it? No need. The fire elemental fairy smiled and shook its head. Of course, it was eager to comprehend the fire tyrant's fire elemental origin power, but it knew that the Emperor Star's dream was to leave this place. During this period of time, the Emperor Star had been working hard in order to leave as soon as possible. The elemental spirits still had time to rest, but the Emperor Star hadn't even taken a nap in the past 2 years. Now they could finally leave this place. How could it possibly waste the Emperor Star's time? Let's absorb it after we leave. In any case, the origin power is already here, so it doesn't matter when I absorb it. The fire elemental fairy smiled. Alright. Yi Zichen laughed and nodded. Right now, he really was itching to leave this room. He just didn't know what other trials awaited him beyond this door. He had passed through all of the 5 elements. However, according to the time the old man had given him, there was still one more trial he needed to pass. Please don't torture me, Yi Zichen prayed inwardly. Yi Zichen prayed in his heart. I haven't heard from him for 2 years, the people on Earth must be worried sick. What's more, during this time, his heart had been racing. He had a bad premonition, but he wasn't sure if it was just his imagination. Let me ask, does this end after I leave this place? There shouldn't be any other trials waiting for me, right? Yi Zichen looked up and shouted. You've already passed all of my trials. As for what happens next, I'm sorry, I don't know. The mechanical voice's voice was still emotionless. When Yi Zichen heard that, his eyes widened. F***ck, what do you mean by that? Don't tell me your 8 trigrams diagram has a lot of trials. I don't have that much time to play with you. The mechanical voice didn't say anything else. Yi Zichen's fiery heart felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over it. Let me recover first, then we'll leave. Yi Zichen sat cross-legged on the ground, took out a few pills, and popped them into his mouth. The mechanical voice's answer just now was vague. Yi Zichen didn't dare guarantee anything. All he could do was let his body recover as much as possible, then leave. According to his previous plan, once he passed through this door, he'd reach the next room. After that, he'd have to fight. He didn't even have time to rest. That was why he'd suffered so much in the lightning elemental room. He hadn't been able to activate his secret technique. Lightning. If there was no lightning, it was practically invisible. That was even more so for the lightning tyrant. His entire body was in a semi-invisible state, and his movements were very fast, like a ghost. A second ago, he was still in front of you, and in the next second, he was behind you, patting your shoulder and giving you a kick. Yi Zichen was nearly beaten to death by the lightning tyrant several times. If it wasn't for his tough life, it would have been rather difficult for him to fight his way out of the 5 elemental trials. Approximately an hour later, Yi Zichen's body had recovered by about 30%. He pointed his middle finger at the room, then walked out anxiously. The moment he walked out of the door, the world in front of him changed dramatically. The whole room was filled with the hands of clocks and countless gears turning in this somewhat empty room. Time? F***ck, I can't be going to fight another time tyrant, right? Stop messing around. I'm already like this, and I'm still fighting against time. If that tyrant rewinds time and turns me into a baby, then wouldn't it just turn me into dust with a hammer? Yi Zichen stood stiffly at the entrance for a long time without moving. He was extremely afraid that he would trigger the checkpoint mechanism and cause countless time elves to appear from within the room. What's more, he was very confused. He didn't have a time elemental spirit, nor did he have any control over the Tao of time. Did something go wrong with this trial? Hey! Is the caretaker of this room here? Yi Zichen shouted towards the emptiness above him. Don't mess with me. I've already walked out of the 5 elemental trials. That's enough. Why did you have to leave a time room? Aren't you guys just causing trouble? Even the Milky Way didn't leave this room back then, right? Don't go overboard. I'm really angry. Yizichin frowned and hesitated for a while. There was no response from anyone in the room. At that very moment, an elder suddenly appeared in front of him, with a chessboard in front of him. Senior, you're out. The elder nodded towards him with a smile, then waved his hand. Come, let's play a game of chess, then you can leave. Alrighty. Yizichin ran towards the elder. Just as Yizichin was about to reach him, the gears in the room suddenly spun rapidly. The elder's body instantly turned illusory, while the clock hands in the room also jump. F***CK. Geezer, you tricked me. Chapter 2578. You brat. You're so unreasonable. The elder, who had just left the room, sat back down in the room after hearing Yizichin's words. He's back. Yizichin, who was still criticizing the black-robed man, quickly smiled when he saw the elder appear in front of him. Senior. I was just kidding. Yizichin ran in front of the chessboard and sat down, then looked at the elder. They were clearly already sitting across from each other. The chessboard was less than half a meter apart, but he still couldn't see the elder's face clearly. Senior. Let's begin now. Yizichin couldn't wait any longer. The elder glanced at him, then slowly placed a piece on the chessboard. I admit defeat. Practically the instant he placed his piece, Yizichin's words followed. The elder wasn't surprised at all. It was as if he had already expected this. He silently put away the chessboard. You lost. Yes, I lost. All Yizichin wanted to do was to leave this place. Who knew how long he would have to play with this elder? What's more, he didn't know much about chess. Since I'm going to lose eventually, there's no difference between losing now and losing after a while. Then I'll accept it. The moment the elder said that, Yizichin's gaze froze. Wait. Senior, what did you mean just now? Accept it. What did I lose to you? Yizichin's heart trembled for some reason. From the elder's words, he should have lost to the elder with something. Yizichin opened his hands. He used the power of the universe to look within himself. Then he looked at his elemental spirit. Up until now, he still couldn't sense what he had lost. You'll know in the future. Perhaps this doesn't really affect you. Back then, he, who walked out of the 8 trigrams, also lost to me. The elder's aged laughter echoed throughout the room. Alright, don't think about it anymore. No matter how much you think about it now, you won't remember it when you leave. I can tell that you really want to leave this place. The elder's words were very confusing. Yizichin didn't lack anything, and the geezer said that he would find out in the future, so it might not affect him at all. She really didn't know what he was trying to express. So, Yizichin couldn't be bothered to think about it, so he nodded and answered the elder's question. Yes. Senior, hurry up and let me out. I've already stayed here for more than 2 years. If I don't get out soon, the people outside will really think that I'm dead. You have a test before you go out. The elder snapped his fingers, causing the elder to disappear from Yizichin's sight. The clocks in the room started to move again. At that moment, Yizichin suddenly realized a problem. Just now, when he was gambling with the old man, time had stopped. That was to say, in that kind of situation, even if they stayed here for a long time, it wouldn't affect their time. In order to get out as soon as possible, he took the initiative to admit defeat and lost to the old man an item that he didn't know what it was. Imperial Star. Look over there. Just as Yizichin frowned, Lil Fire pointed forward. Right in front of them, an ice sculpture stood in front of them. Sealed inside this ice sculpture was rouge and face powder? Yizichin was stunned for half a minute, then hurried towards the ice sculpture. Rouge powder! Yizichin slapped the ice sculpture. The sealed rouge powder had her eyes closed the entire time, as if she was conscious. You know each other? The elder's voice suddenly sounded out in Yizichin's mind. I am not too sure. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen wasn't sure if the person in front of him was the person he knew. Is she a time elemental fairy? Yes. The elder's figure slowly emerged from the side of the ice sculpture. This elemental fairy forcefully devoured other elemental fairies, causing the elements in her body to collapse. If you know her, then staying with you might be a good choice. Stay with me? Yi Zichen frowned. This is why you walked out of the 8 trigrams of the 5 elements. You are also the only one who fought your way out with martial strength. Back then, He came out with her domain, and I gave her the opportunity to become an overlord. This time, just treat her as my personal reward for you. How to free her from the ice sculpture will depend on your comprehension of the 5 elements. She also holds the key to leaving this place, so I'll leave her to you. Comprehension of the 5 elements. If there were no surprises, then it should be the comprehension of the origin that the tyrant of 5 elements had given him. Lil Fire. Brother Fire has already started to comprehend it. Sister Feng looked behind her. The fire elemental fairy sat cross-legged on the ground, while the flame brand between his eyebrows shone brightly. You guys. Don't worry, Imperial Star, Sister Feng smiled. Sister Feng smiled and said, we know how to break this seal. We just need to wait for Brother Fire to comprehend it first. Alright. Yi Zichen nodded heavily, then his gaze fell upon the rouge and powder on the ice sculpture. He never would have thought that he would meet her here. She really is an elemental fairy. However, Yi Zichen was very confused. The elder said that she forcefully devoured other elemental fairies, causing the elements in her body to become chaotic. From the looks of it, the battle between the elements was like this. But just how much did she have to devour in order to cause the elements in her body to become chaotic? Among the elemental fairies of the 5 elements, Lil Fire was the only one who had absorbed the origin energy of another elemental fairy. That elemental fairy had given it to him, and Lil Fire had only woken up after several months of slumber. She could devour to the point of causing her own elements to become chaotic. She must have devoured quite a bit of rouge powder as well. I really couldn't tell, but you're quite the stubborn one. Yi Zichen couldn't help but smile. When he thought back to how she confessed her love to him in the second world, he never would have guessed that rouge powder would have such a personality. Devouring other elemental fairies in order to become stronger. Of course, Yi Zichen wasn't really against it, because that was what he was doing right now. However, he hadn't met any other elemental fairies. If he did, he would have made Lil Fire devour them no matter what. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. Based on the amount of time the other elemental fairies took to absorb, Yi Zichen estimated that it would take another 5 to 7 days. But right at that moment, break! Lil Fire, who was sitting on the ground, frowned, while the other elemental fairies also reached out their hands. The ice sculpture containing rouge powder instantly shattered. Lil Fire. You comprehended it? Yi Zichen revealed an expression of surprise when he saw Lil Fire catch the powder. More or less. I comprehended about 70 or 80%. Didn't we break this ice and save the people here? Lil Fire grinned. At that moment, rouge powder slowly opened her eyes. When she saw Yi Zichen, she subconsciously opened her eyes wide. I'm dreaming, right? She quickly rubbed her eyes, then looked at the elemental fairies around her to confirm that she wasn't dreaming. Yi Zichen patted her shoulder as he looked at Rouge, who had leapt into his arms. Rouge Powder? Great deity! Rouge Powder looked up with a joyful smile. A simple signal was enough to confirm their identities. It really is you. You're actually an elemental fairy, Yi Zichen sighed. Let's not waste any more time. Just now, this geezer told me that you can take me out of here, right? Sure. Then hurry up. I've already stayed here for 2 years. If we stay any longer, then we really won't make it. Chapter 2579. Golden Desert. What kind of place is this? Why do I have to dig the sand out myself? Can't you just send it out to me? In the deserted desert, Yi Zichen gathered the power of the universe in his hands and emerged from the desert. The elemental spirits of the 5 elements stayed in his arms. As for the time elemental spirits, she didn't know if it was the old man who told her, but she also learned from the 5 elemental spirits and found a place to stay in his body. The position he chose was also very tricky. His chest. I'm not a space elemental spirit. In my current state, it's already good enough that I can help you break the shackles of the time seal. What else do you want me to do? The time elemental sprite muttered. All right, I won't blame you. It's great that you can come out. Yi Zichen was merely retorting casually. What I really want to say is, why did you latch onto my chest for no reason? Aren't you already in the mature stage? Aren't elemental elves no different from humans in the mature stage? Yi Zichen asked the time elemental fairy. Yes. Then why are you still staying in my body? Hurry up and come out. Don't crush my heart. Yi Zichen urged. But the time elemental sprite ignored him. Mo Weiwei, that's enough. Wu Xing and the others are still young, but you're already an adult. Mo Weiwei was the true name of the time elemental spirit. She was the one who took the initiative to say it when they came out. Can't I feel your heartbeat? Mo Weiwei frowned. Don't provoke me. Be careful that I don't use time acceleration here and cause your heart to enter a period of decline. Why do I feel like I've invited an ancestor back? Then you can stay here. I'm telling you, don't mess with my heart, remember? Hey, how can I bear to move around? As he spoke, Yi Zichen felt a pain in his chest. If I'm not mistaken, it's Mo Weiwei. I'll be waiting for you. If I let you in again, I won't be the Emperor Star. He looked around. Yi Zichen was still in the Golden Desert, but there was no one there. Could it be that the elimination was over? How could it end like this? He was still waiting to deal with Shitu. Yi Zichen was sure that the little bastard was the one who'd caused him to be suddenly engulfed by the death storm. Of course, Yi Zichen reckoned that if he did all that, he'd most likely accept elimination. Yi Zichen just wanted to tell Su Yan and the others not to worry. He would let Shitu see him even if he wanted to. He was afraid. Watching him slaughter everyone here and snatch the number 1 position, he would only have enough time to deal with him when he got out. Now it seemed that he had been thinking too much. Isn't this too fast? Just like that, 2 years was over. Yi Zichen was still wondering how he could fight for 8 or 10 more years this time. Wandering aimlessly in the desert. At the same time, he opened the virtual network to check the news. What surprised him the most was that Meng Luo had sent him more than 4,000 messages over the past 2 years. On average, she would send more than 6 messages every day. The contents of the messages were almost the same. He wanted him to reply as soon as possible. Tianhai had also sent him 2 messages asking about resources. After that, no one else sent him any messages. Yinshang Yangjian, the great sage, Su Yan. He'd thought he'd receive the most messages, but none of them sent him any. What's going on? Do they think I'm dead, or do they think I'm still alive? If he was dead, they should at least send him a eulogy, right? If he wasn't dead, shouldn't he send a message asking about the situation like Meng Luo did? Or perhaps he should reply as soon as possible. He didn't send anything. This made Yi Zichen's heart ache. He sent each of the great sage and the others a question mark. He didn't want to say anything more. The question mark represented everything he wanted to say. After that, he sent a message to Meng Luo as a reply. Planet Een. Meng Luo sat in the main hall, listening to the elders of her family discuss important matters. During the past 2 years, Yi Zichen had fought with all his might. Yi Zichen fought desperately in the 8 trigrams of the 5 elements, while Meng Luo and the other family heirs underwent tremendous changes. For example, Meng Luo. She'd already started attending family meetings. The gazes of everyone in the hall were very solemn. Yi Zichen could tell from their gazes that they were discussing something very important. Meng Luo, who sat in the very middle, acted very differently. Regardless of her demeanor or behavior, she was not the kind of little lowly that she portrayed to the public. Everyone, this is all I have to say. I've already decided that if war breaks out, then our bloodline will fully support the Virtual World Corporation. Right now, the Titan race has an ambiguous relationship with the human race. We can't be like them. If Songyua's system attacks. Ding dong. A notification from the optical computer caused Meng Luo's expression to freeze. She clicked on the virtual network. My father will discuss the following matters with everyone. I have some personal matters to take care of. In short, if Songyua's system wants to fight, then we'll fight them. With that, Meng Luo jogged out of the hall. Great deity! You're alive! At the same time, in the surveillance center of a Level 2 world, sir. A staff member in overalls hurried into an office. What is it? Someone appeared in a Level 2 world. A human. The middle-aged man tapped his fingers. Not long later, Yi Zichen's image appeared on the screen in front of him. Why is there a human here? Didn't they withdraw all the examiners 2 years ago? This person can't be. The middle-aged man frowned, then his expression suddenly froze. Send someone to contact him. Investigate his identity and report to the higher-up. Understood. The staff member left. Yi Zichen stood in the desert and read Meng Luo's reply. His face darkened. What do you mean I'm alive? I didn't die at all, okay? Meng Luo's reply efficiency was astonishing. Instead, the great sage and the others still hadn't replied. She didn't care about him at all. What the hell were they doing? Why were they so busy? They didn't even have time to reply. Don't move. Please show me your identity card. Several staff members appeared in the desert. Yi Zichen sensed a hint of fear from their auras. They were all at least at the general level, and there were 2 other commander-level experts. Here. Yi Zichen handed over his identity card, then spoke up. I'm a participant in the tournament a few years ago. Yi Zichen. The burly man at the front frowned, then his eyes filled with terror. You're His Majesty Yi, huh? His Majesty? Chapter 2580. His Holiness. As Yi Zichen looked at the commander, whose eyes were filled with respect, he was completely bewildered. How did he become His Majesty? Lord Yi. The bearded commander heavily hammered the left side of his chest with his right fist. I did not reveal my identity to you, it was this subordinate's rudeness. I belong to the Virtual World Corporation, Commander 9 Heavens, Sfera. Wait. Yi Zichen quickly reached out his hand to stop Sfera, who was about to kneel down. Virtual World Corporation. His Holiness. Yi Zichen naturally knew that Her Majesty and Her Highness meant the same thing. What he cared more about was, how did he become a member of the Virtual World Corporation? He also did not pass the test. Moreover, he did not want to join the Virtual World Group. Although he knew that the Virtual World Group had a good relationship with the Master of the Galaxy, he really wanted to join the Universe Mercenary Alliance. That's right. He'd always wanted to join this giant that was suspected to be the Azure Moon Galaxy's lackey. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Yi Zichen wanted to take the risk and infiltrate the enemy's ranks to steal information. This is Commander Sver. I'm a little curious as to why I've become the Lord of the Virtual World Group. I don't know about this either. Sfera shook his head. I knew it. You have been personally conferred the title of Your Majesty by the head of our Virtual World Corporation, Lord Wunli. When you were engulfed by the Death Storm, our Virtual World Corporation had sent elites here to rescue you. It's just that I haven't been able to find you, so I've been left on the daytime star to observe the situation here. Fortunately, you have reappeared today after disappearing for 2 years. F***ck me. He didn't expect that being swallowed by the Death Storm would cause such a huge commotion. Even Wunli, the head of the Virtual World Group, was alarmed. He even personally bestowed the title of His Majesty. But even the head of the Virtual Realm Corporation had been alerted, so why hadn't the great sage heard anything at all? There was also Venerable Spirit Phoenix. She had said that she would protect him, but there was no news of her either. Your Holiness, let's leave this place so I can report to my superiors, Swill said with a smile. After learning Yi Zichen's identity, the people around him all looked at him respectfully. All right. A few hours after leaving the Golden Desert, Yi Zichen was in a daze. Your Holiness Yi, do you need a massage to relax? Your Holiness, this is a change of clothes prepared for you. Your Holiness, your bath is ready. Would you like to bathe yourself, or should I? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Looking at the beautiful woman in front of him, he shook his head forcefully. I'll do it myself. Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh after his entire body sunk into the bathtub. All of this happened too suddenly. During his 2 years in the 8 trigrams diagram, he had given it his all in order to come out alive. Originally, he had planned to go on a killing spree after coming out and advance round after round to obtain the title of Highness. Who would have thought that he would be bestowed with the title as soon as he came out? Hiss! Yi Zichen, who was soaking in the bathtub, couldn't help but gasp. For some unknown reason, a numb feeling lingered around his body, making him very uncomfortable. He lowered his head and looked at the bathtub. Only then did he realize that the wounds and old wounds on his body were slowly healing. The scars on his body were also gradually fading. The Virtual World Corporation is really wealthy. I'll use the geocentric fluid to fuse with a dozen or so precious herbs to help you recover. How rich! Bailey also jumped down from Yi Zichen's shoulder, then buried himself in the bathtub and shook his head in satisfaction. Oh right. Monroe has been sending you private messages and inviting you into the virtual network. Except, Yi Zichen's consciousness entered the virtual network as he soaked in the bathtub. At this moment, he had arrived at a spacious grassland. When he arrived, Meng Luo, Flame Rat, and Hua Jianrou were already waiting there. God! Before Yi Zichen could even stabilize himself, Meng Luo rushed towards him and threw herself into his arms. Almighty, you're still alive. That's great. The Flame Rat laughed. I knew you wouldn't die. Hua Jianrou crossed her arms and stood in front of him. Then, she patted Meng Luo's little head. That's enough. How are you going to get married in the future? I won't marry him. Meng Luo pouted and muttered. It's really nice to see you guys. Yi Zichen smiled towards them. At the same time, Meng Luo also left his body, causing Yi Zichen to climb up from the ground. We're very happy to see you so energetic. Hua Jianrou smiled towards them. Hua Jianrou said with a smile, then winked and said, Your Highness. You guys know as well? Yi Zichen, who stood on the grassland, revealed a shocked expression. The head of the Virtual World Corporation personally gave it to you. There shouldn't be anyone in the universe that doesn't know, right? Hua Jianrou shrugged. I think it's because you're dead, so they gave you an honorary title. What a pity. The Virtual World Corporation didn't expect you to be so tough. You actually survived. They definitely feel extremely pained to give you the title of Your Majesty for nothing. However, with the generosity of the Virtual World Corporation, they won't take back your title. It seems like you're still going to be Your Majesty. Yi Zichen hadn't seen Hua Jianrou for a long time, but her mouth was still as poisonous as ever. Sister Rou is actually jealous of the Almighty. Meng Luo scooted over and whispered into Yi Zichen's ear. The Virtual World Corporation backed out of this time's fight after the title of Great God was given. In other words, the only one who obtained the title of Great God is you. Being able to join the Virtual World Corporation was Sister Rou's dream. Now that her dream has been shattered, she feels a little sad. Stupid girl, you talk too much. Hua Jianrou clenched her fist. Seeing that, Meng Luo quickly hid behind Yi Zichen. God save me! He couldn't help but smile. Yi Zichen looked at the familiar figures in front of him, then frowned and looked around. Why don't I see by you? You still have the nerve to ask. Then, Hua Jianrou rolled her eyes at Yi Zichen. Isn't Lil White not here because of you? Me? Yi Zichen was confused. Then, Hua Jianrou spoke up again. You took the death storm for Little White. After you were devoured, Little White withdrew from the competition. It's like he's gone mad. He called all of us over to investigate Shitu's family. Shitu. I'll definitely kill him if I catch him. Yi Zichen clenched his fist tightly. Hua Jianrou shook her head with a smile. You probably don't have a chance. Why? Lil White already died. Even his family has been wiped out. Chapter 2581. Stop fooling around. Almost instantly, Yi Zichen smiled and shook his head. Clan extermination. She too was a human. Killing a human in the human universe was a crime, and he even wanted to exterminate his entire race. Kill Shitu. Yi Zichen could believe it. However, if it was the extermination of a race, there was no way to hide it from the public. Even the managers in the universe couldn't turn a blind eye even if they wanted to. Even when Yi Zichen came out, all he wanted to do was teach Shitu a lesson. He had no intention of actually taking his life. Even if he wanted to take it, he had to do it discreetly. Heh! Hua Jianrou shrugged and laughed. Yi Zichen frowned when he saw her expression, then looked towards Meng Luo and the flame rat. No way. This time, Yi Zichen was truly shocked. Yi Zichen could clearly tell from Meng Luo and the flame rat's gazes that they were certain of this as well. Hua Jianrou was not joking with him. Bai Yu's crazy. Yi Zichen glared and shouted. She's actually going to annihilate her entire clan? Sister Bai Yu is indeed a bit. Meng Luo pursed her lips and didn't finish her sentence. You didn't even see the look in Little White's eyes. Hua Jianrou sighed. I've known her for so many years, but I've never seen her like that. With that, Hua Jianrou patted Yi Zichen's shoulder. All of this is for you. We can't let her continue. Yi Zichen subconsciously wanted to send a message to Bai Yu, but was stopped by Hua Jianrou. We already told her that you're alive, she already knows. That's good. Let her come back. If the manager of the universe really wants to cause trouble for her, then I can testify for her and explain the problem. There's no need. Hua Jianrou smiled and shrugged. Looks like you've been out of the loop for the past 2 years. Over the past 2 years, there have been many changes within the human race. You should be going to the Virtual World Corporation to receive your position. When the time comes, you can find out more about it through your entourage. What's wrong with the humans? Yi Zichen frowned. What we say will be very complicated, and there are some things that we can't discuss here. Now, you just need to remember to be careful with your words and actions when you're under surveillance. Hua Jianrou's gaze was filled with meaning. Then, she patted Yi Zichen's shoulders a few more times. I still have a lot of things to do in my family, so I won't be chatting with you here. I'm very happy to see you alive. We have to go too. Meng Luo and the flame rat followed suit. Great God, if you have time, you can come to planet Een to look for us. Waving his hands, Meng Luo and the others left the virtual world. Yi Zichen logged out of the virtual network with a frown, then looked towards Bailey, who was on his shoulder. Bailey immediately understood what he meant, and received a report in his mind. Destruction or rebirth. The human race is falling apart. About this, Yi Zichen turned around. Bailey shrugged. This is last year's report. You can take a look, it will definitely help you now. He looked at the content of the report. The main content of the report was about the division of the human race. A year ago, the entire human race was officially divided into 2 factions, the Virtual World Alliance and the Azure Moon Alliance. In fact, there were signs of this a long time ago. Yi Zichen didn't expect it to be directly reported. From this report, it was clear that the current problems of the human race could no longer be hidden from the truth. There's also this. Bailey sent another report to Yi Zichen. The guardian race of the human race, the Titans, is intentionally splitting apart. Why did it suddenly become like this? Yi Zichen knitted his eyebrows. He never expected the human race to change so much in the past 2 years. Could it be that the human race is truly going to start a war? Is all of this a warning before the war? Meng Luo and the other heirs also became busy. Their families might have been dragged into this as well. Then, what should the Milky Way do? Should they continue to hide, or should they take advantage of the war to attach themselves to the Virtual World Alliance? From Yi Zichen's perspective, that might be even more disadvantageous for the Milky Way. The Virtual World Alliance and the Azure Moon Alliance were like the two pillars of the human race. They dared to confront each other. That was because they had absolute confidence in their overall strength. They were not afraid of the other suddenly attacking. What was truly difficult was their subordinate clans and factions. If they joined the Azure Moon Alliance, they would become enemies of the Virtual World Alliance. The Virtual World Alliance could easily destroy them, and vice versa. If Yi Zichen led the Milky Way Alliance to join the Virtual World Alliance, then the Azure Moon Alliance would have an even better excuse to destroy them. They wouldn't need to feel any psychological burden or public pressure. It was better to continue hiding than to reveal it. However, Yi Zichen couldn't make these decisions himself. He needed to discuss it with the Great Sage and the others to see what they thought. Even though he was the head of the Milky Way Alliance by default, he wasn't the type to act alone in certain matters. For example, he was willing to discuss the matter of attaching himself to or hiding the Milky Way Alliance. That was what they'd always done. They discussed things with each other and came up with the best decision. In the virtual network, there was still no reply from the Great Sage and the others. Strange. Yi Zichen glanced at Bei Yin's virtual network name and sent her a message with a frown. The Great Sage and the others were all living in the castle. If it was Bei Yu, then she might know better what they'd been doing and how they'd survived the past 2 years. However, he was rather worried that Bei Yu wouldn't be able to receive it. She was using an anonymous helmet, which she didn't really like to use. Yi Zichen decided to give it a try. Yi Zichen waited silently. Half a minute later, Yi Zichen left the bathtub wearing only a bathrobe. Your Holiness Yi. The attendant in the room saw Yi Zichen's ashen expression. Your Holiness, may I ask? Where is Sver? Your Holiness, I'm here. Sver ran up from the first floor. Do you have any orders? Prepare the fastest spaceship for me. Your Holiness? Hurry. I want you to prepare a spaceship. Yi Zichen could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. If you can't do it, then I'll go buy it myself. Your Holiness? What happened? You can tell this subordinate. This subordinate will take care of it for you. Sver frowned. Give me a spaceship. Chapter 2582. At the Milky Way Galaxy, Sphera prepared the highest-grade spaceship in the shortest amount of time possible for the enraged Yi Zichen. Your Holiness Yi, please allow this subordinate to come with you. No need. Seeing that the spaceship was ready, Yi Zichen directly walked into the cabin. There were some things that he could deal with personally. He did not request for anyone to come with him. The moment the cabin door closed, the entire spaceship turned into light and disappeared in front of Sphera and company. What happened to His Holiness? The remaining members of the Virtual World Corporation looked towards Sphera in confusion. You guys wait here. I'll report to the corporation. Sphera left with a solemn expression. Although he did not know what happened to His Majesty Yi, he had a bad premonition in his heart. The balance of the universe might be broken. Bei Yin. Yi Zichen maintained contact with Bei Yin in the spaceship. What you just told me, when did it happen? About 2 years ago. Understood. Oh yeah, my lord. Bei Yin sent another message. Bei Yin sent another message. Your friend, Yang Jian, took all the savings you left here from me a year and a half ago. He also asked me how to buy energy cannons, laser guns, and other weapons. All right, I understand. Yi Zichen tried his best to remain calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. The great sage and company were not in Blue River Planet at all. 2 years ago, they suddenly left Blue River Planet, leaving only Yi Zichen's children there. That was all. Yi Zichen was certain that the Milky Way galaxy was in trouble. That was why he urgently asked Sphera for the spaceship in order to return to the Milky Way galaxy. And now Bei Yin told him that Yang Jian and company took all of her savings. Damn it! Just who was it? How did they discover the Milky Way galaxy? Yi Zichen, who sat in the cabin, clenched his fist. His breathing was trembling, and he was unable to calm himself down at all. He was very afraid. He didn't really care whether the Milky Way galaxy was destroyed or not. He was afraid of the great sage and company instead. It had already been a day since he came out, but they still had not given him any reply. Why is this happening? Did they all die in battle? Impossible? Absolutely impossible! Yi Zichen shouted, then looked towards Bailey. How long will it take for us to get back? I've already increased the speed of the spaceship to the maximum, but even so, if we want to enter the dark spot in the Milky Way, we still need 5 days. Bailey frowned. Can't it be any faster? This is already the limit of what this spaceship can withstand. Any faster and the spaceship will disintegrate from the pressure of the cursed space. Bailey replied, 5 days is the shortest amount of time. All right, thank you for your hard work. No matter how anxious Yi Zichen was, he knew that no matter how angry he got, he couldn't change the ship's course. You should calm down as well. Bailey comforted him after sensing Yi Zichen's emotions. Bei Yin also said that your people bought energy cannons and laser guns. These weapons are very effective for planetary defense. You sent them a message, but they didn't reply. Maybe they're still in the Milky Way. There's no virtual network there, so they naturally can't receive your message. Yi Zichen, who'd already sunk into despair, suddenly lit up. You're right. They might still be in the Milky Way. Yi Zichen clenched his fist. At that moment, he didn't dare to think too much. He firmly believed that the great sage and the others were still in the Milky Way. Even though he knew very well that if they were truly attacked by the galactic pirates, then they might not be able to hold on for 2 years. In the end, the Milky Way only had a short amount of time to face the universe. How could the Milky Way not be able to hold on against the invaders, who had received a mature education in the universe? It's just time. Leave it to me. At that moment Mo Weiwei, who had been on Yi Zichen's chest, stood out. Don't forget, I'm a time elemental fairy. At the same time, at the headquarters of the Virtual World Corporation, the person chosen by Yi Zichen, the master of the Milky Way, is truly lucky. He actually made it out of the 5 elemental geezers' inheritance space alive. When Li's gaze towards Yi Zichen was filled with praise. The Virtual World Corporation had sent 20,000 people into a Level 2 world to search for Yi Zichen, but they hadn't found him even after a year. Actually, she had already guessed that he'd already been swept into the 8 trigram space. It was just that many people had gone into that space in human history. The only one who'd truly made it out alive was the master of the Milky Way. Yi Zichen was the second. Have you found his clansmen in the Milky Way? Not yet, the 9-faced overlord shook his head. We've been searching this entire time. We've practically searched all of the universe nations around the Milky Way, but we still haven't found any traces of them. Did you go to the Archean moon system? Wenli squinted her eyes. The 9-faced overlord was stunned. It's not particularly convenient for the Virtual World Corporation to go there. What's inconvenient about it? Wenli shrugged. The impending war isn't a real one. The human universe is still in a period of peace. Why can't we go there to find some people? What's more, they have a reason to imprison the humans of the Milky Way. I'll send someone over right now, said the 9-faced overlord. Before that, capture that brat Yi Zichen for me. Before that, capture that brat Yi Zichen for me. You can't let him know about this. If he finds out, then it'll be bad. I'll. Before the nine-faced overlord could finish, Wenli frowned and let out a deep sigh. Wenli subconsciously looked in her direction. An inexplicable smile appeared on his face. Lil Nine, don't tell me that Yi Zichen already knows. If that's the case, then it'll be very troublesome. Big sis. The nine-faced overlord hesitated for a moment. It can't be true, right? Wenli, who had been rather lazy, suddenly sat up. Then hurry up and tell his attendants to bring him back. Tell him not to mess around. We'll find his clansmen for him. He went to the Milky Way galaxy himself. The nine-faced overlord's expression stiffened. Furthermore, I've just heard a piece of news. What is it? Venerable Spirit Phoenix, she killed the guards sent by the human race to the prisons. Now all 9 prisons are in her hands. The Supremes Association has already sent people to capture her, and they've even sent a request to our Virtual World Corporation for assistance. Should we respond? Clatter. Wenli, who was sitting on a rattan chair, suddenly patted her head in exhaustion. These two. Neither one of them gives me any peace of mind. Big sis, then we. The nine-faced overlord didn't know what to do. Wenli sighed, let's wait. Blue Emperor should be looking for me soon. After we discuss. Before Wenli could finish, she received an invitation from Blue Emperor of the Universe Union Bank. Look. His invitation has arrived. Chapter 2583. Above the clouds, Emperor Lan frowned with a serious expression. Soon, a fox-faced lady appeared in the clouds in front of him. Lord Emperor Lan. What business do you have with me? The newcomer was Wenli. The Blue Emperor sighed when he heard her. You seem to be enjoying yourself. You even have the mood to joke here. Life is bitter. If I don't add some sugar to my life, wouldn't it be too hard? Wenli sat on the clouds. With a tap of her finger, a piece of cloud turned into a little fox that hopped around in front of her. You know about Lingfeng, right? Emperor Lan asked. I know. Wenli's smile faded as she watched the little fox dance. She sighed. I'm still troubled by this matter. The human prison. What was being suppressed were places where the humans had determined to be a potential threat to the human race. Venerable Spirit Phoenix had killed the guardian there. Taking the 9 prisons under her control could be seen as a betrayal of the human race. The human race did not need any reason to kill her. Why did she suddenly do this? Did you guys discuss this? Emperor Lan frowned. Don't talk nonsense. Why would I let her do this? Wenli frowned and glanced at the void. She wrote a few words on the cloud with her finger, but she quickly erased the words. Emperor Lan's heart skipped a beat. He nodded at Wenli and said, The Supremes Association's invitation to help. What are you going to do? Wenli wrote another line of words in the clouds. I understand. Emperor Lan nodded. I still have many things to deal with. I won't stay any longer. Before Blue Emperor could finish his sentence, Wenli had already left the virtual world. Emperor Lan looked at the cloud under Wenli's feet silently. He sighed and left. Sister, how was it? Nine-faced overlord asked urgently after returning to the human race. This Emperor Lan, T-Rex is still lacking in intelligence. Even if he's a Supremes, he's still stubborn. Wenli frowned and said bad things about Emperor Lan. Nine-faced overlord was stunned. She had never heard her sister say that about Emperor Lan. What? He actually asked me in the virtual world if I was the one who instructed Lingfeng to take over the human race's prison. Do you think he's crazy? Wenli rolled her eyes. I wrote him a note to remind him, but he still went straight to the point and asked me how to deal with the request from the Supremes Association. It's not like Blue Emperor doesn't know about our company's situation. It's just that the intelligence of the Tyrannosaurus race isn't very high. Wenli was speechless. Personally make a trip to the headquarters of the Universe Union Bank, and leave through our universe secret passageway. Tell him to handle the transfer of the Tyrannosaurus species as soon as possible, as well as the transfer of funds within the United Bank. Big sister, you. In an instant, the nine-faced overlord seemed to have understood something as his eyes filled with fear. Are you ready to do it? What else? There was no emotion in Wen Li's brows. Ling Feng has already done that. This is her signal to us. Can we still suppress her? If the Supremes Association wanted to investigate, would they not be able to find out that we were in contact with Ling Feng? I understand. Yi Zichen. He can go play by himself for now. Wen Li rubbed her aching head. I'm too tired. Let me have a good rest. Reply to the Supremes Association and tell them that the Virtual World Corporation will assist in suppressing the request, but we won't be sending anyone. All right. The nine-faced overlord hurriedly left. Only then did Wen Li sit down, her eyes filled with exhaustion. So annoying. Milky Way Master, it's all your fault. If your Milky Way galaxy still existed, the human race wouldn't be in this state. Back then, over 70% of the stability of the human race was due to the existence of the Milky Way galaxy. It could be said that the Milky Way galaxy was an important factor in maintaining the stability of the human universe. Its destruction. It wasn't just the Milky Way galaxy's disaster, it also indirectly caused the current situation of the human universe. Wen Li had already thought of it. The human race would definitely face such a day. Everything she did was to take advantage of the situation. She wasn't the one pushing for it. Esteemed Master. Inside the floating palace, Shea walked in from the outside. Why did you come? Wen Li glanced at her. Shea pursed her lip. I want to return to the Milky Way galaxy. No. Almost instantly, Wen Li shook her head in rejection. Shea, you're staying in my palace. You should be very clear about the current situation. If you really understand me, don't burden me at this time. I'm already very tired from carrying the Milky Way galaxy. Shea's thoughts were very simple. She didn't want to use herself to force Wen Li to make a decision. She simply wanted to return to the Milky Way galaxy, to protect it. Her previous suggestions were rejected several times. Just now, she heard the conversation between Wen Li and the nine-faced overlord. She knew that the Virtual World Corporation wouldn't be able to help the Milky Way galaxy in the short term. She couldn't help but make another suggestion. Even when she saw Wen Li's exhausted expression, she couldn't be stubborn anymore. I understand. Shea nodded silently. Then the Milky Way galaxy, the Virtual World Corporation really doesn't care? Of course, but don't we have more important things to do now? Wen Li frowned. The situation over at the human prison is more difficult to deal with than the Milky Way galaxy. I don't have the time to deal with the Milky Way galaxy at all. Leave it to Yi Zichen, no matter what. He is the person chosen by your brother-in-law. Trust him. Pineo Galaxy. The dark spot in the Milky Way galaxy. Yi Zichen finally returned after traveling through the universe for 5 whole days. 5 days. This also meant that he didn't ask Mo Weiwei to change the time. It was true that he was worried. However, he also understood very well that changing the time in the flow of space was the same as changing the time of the entire universe they traveled through. It was no less difficult than changing the time of a universe. Even if Mo Weiwei was a mature time elemental spirit, it was very difficult, or rather, nearly impossible, for her to change the time. The dark spot is much more obvious than before. This means that this dark spot has traveled back and forth countless times. Bailey frowned as he looked at the coordinates of the dark spot in the cabin. Are we going in? It's very possible that the invading space pirates left people around the dark spot to guard it. We'll be attacked the moment we enter. Let's go in. That was something that didn't even need to be considered. Since he was already here, he wouldn't have come in the first place if he was worried about someone waiting for him outside the dark spot. He was back. He was here to take back the Milky Way galaxy. Chapter 2584. The Milky Way Galaxy. No matter how turbulent the human universe was, the Milky Way Galaxy was like a paradise on Earth compared to the chaotic universe. The Tulip family had completely ruled the Milky Way Galaxy. Heiyu led the 360,000 Tulip clansmen and 70 million slaves. Together with the human slaves in the Milky Way Galaxy, the Tulip family's exploitation of the Milky Way Galaxy had reached a mature stage. Most importantly, during the time they were mining, there were no other experts that the family had been worried about. They had been mining here for more than a year, almost 2 years. Not to mention experts, there had been no other experts. Even if there were no experts, there were very few soul spaceships around. That human from Earth hasn't been caught yet? Heiyu sat on a leather sofa in a simple room. His eyes were gloomy as he looked at the person who had come to report. Not yet. The intelligence officer of the Tulip family, who was standing in front, trembled. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat, and his clothes had already been soaked. Heiyu's aura was too sinister. Standing in front of him was like facing death. Trash scram! The intelligence agent hurriedly ran out of the room. Heiyu clenched his fist. It had been almost 2 years. That swordsman still hadn't been caught. There was also no news of their clansman. Deacon, what do you want to say? Heiyu raised his head and looked at Wire with an unfriendly expression. I just want to say that the life healer has joined our Tulip family. According to our previous agreement with her, we shouldn't continue to cause trouble for her clansmen. Wire reminded him. You want me to let them go? Heiyu raised his head. His eyes were incomparably dark. The veins and blood vessels on his arms were like wriggling worms. Let them go. Are my people going to die just like that? The family has already said that we won't pursue the grievances between the life healer and Su Yan's clansmen, including that swordsman. Wire clenched her fists and suppressed her fear. This is the family's decision. The situation in the universe is very complicated. The family suggests that we do our best to mine as many resources as possible. Don't waste time and manpower on other things. This is not the Tulip family's territory, Heiyu said coldly. But, shut up. Suddenly, Heiyu grabbed Wire's neck and pushed her against the wooden wall of the room. My patience with you is really limited. If it weren't for the fact that you're the great elder's granddaughter, who knows how many times you would have died by now. Do you understand? Heiyu exerted strength in his palm. Wire, who was pressed against the wooden wall, had a face that was already turning purple. She kicked back and forth, trying to break free from Heiyu's grasp. Humph! He forcefully flung Wire down, and the wooden house was smashed into by Wire, leaving a hole in it. Write off all grievances? Easy for you to say. At the very beginning, Heiyu had the same thoughts. However, the instant that sword-wielding native killed the 3 team leaders he trusted the most, Heiyu's heart sank. That guy, he must die. If he didn't die, how would he face the families of his 3 brothers? What he regretted the most in his life. He had let that fellow escape right in front of his eyes. Let me tell you, don't use your family to talk to me. In the Milky Way Galaxy, I'm the heavens, understand? Heiyu squatted down and grabbed Wire's chin. You'd better behave yourself. Administrator. At that moment, several figures suddenly charged down from the sky. Sword-wielding invaders have appeared outside the spatial dark spot. They attacked our Tulip family clansmen the moment they entered. What did you say? Sword-wielding? Within the Milky Way's spatial dark spot. Yi Zichen held his sword with both hands and stared coldly at the Tulip family clansmen in front of him. Who are you? Do you know that we are the Tulip? Before the messenger could finish, a ray of golden sword light beheaded him. There was no need to confirm it. These people were definitely invaders from the Milky Way Galaxy. Invaders? All of you deserve to die. A single sword was no longer able to keep up with Yi Zichen's outpouring of anger. With 2 golden swords in his hands, The 3,000 elites the Tulip family had left in the spatial dark spot couldn't even put up a single bit of resistance against Yi Zichen. They were like a bunch of lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Yi Zichen was the butcher who reaped their lives. The number of deaths continued to rise. At that moment, Yi Zichen no longer cared about defense. All he cared about was reaping their lives. Dong! A huge impact slammed into Yi Zichen's back. This attack caused Yi Zichen to subconsciously look behind him. He saw several combat spaceships and 10-odd medium-sized manned spaceships appear in front of him. The impact just now was an attack from the combat spaceship. The cabin door opened. Heiyu's subordinates walked out. Yi Zichen stood in the middle of the dead Tulip family clansmen and looked at Heiyu. It's not him. Heiyu immediately recognized that the newcomer wasn't the black sword Su Yun he'd had nightmares about for nearly 2 years. Administrator. This person is recorded in the information we obtained from Earth's information network. He's the leader of the life planets on Earth, as well as the strongest person, Yi Zichen. He should have been training in the universe when we arrived. This time, it should be. Say no more, interrupted Heiyu. To put it bluntly, he's a native of this place, right? That's right. Then let's kill him. Both Heiyu and Yi Zichen no longer needed to communicate with each other. Enemies. In their hearts, their goals were also very simple. Their enemy's death. Whoosh. Yi Zichen's figure suddenly disappeared from outer space. However, he didn't actually disappear. He simply moved so fast that the Tulip family clansmen couldn't follow him with the naked eye. All they could see was countless flashes of sword light, and the deaths of the Tulip family clansmen. The pilots of the combat spaceships used their radars to determine their positions. Machine guns locked onto them and fired. Yi Zichen gripped his swords expressionlessly as he weaved through the rain of bullets. As he reaped the lives of the Tulip family clansmen. Ding! Heiyu blocked the golden sword with a dagger. Yi Zichen, who disappeared from outer space, reappeared in front of everyone. The two of them stared at each other with bloodshot eyes. I really hate people like you who use swords to the extreme. Heiyu's eyes were bloodshot as boundless cosmic energy surged out from his body. Chaotic gales of cosmic energy swept through Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's long black hair fluttered in the wind. His pitch-black eyes stared straight into Heiyu's. Die. Chapter 2585. In outer space, sparks flew in the silent outer space. Swords and daggers clashed. Even if the Tulip family clansmen wanted to intervene, they couldn't keep up with the speed of the two's battle. As expected of the leader of Earth. You're already pretty good among the natives, Heiyu transmitted. Heiyu transmitted his voice as they clashed, his eyes growing increasingly gloomy. But today you must die. After images flashed, Yi Zichen didn't send a single transmission. He looked coldly at Heiyu. It seemed like he was fighting, but the Tulip family clansmen were suffering more and more casualties. Administrator! He's still killing our people. The Tulip family clansmen transmitted. Heiyu's heart trembled. He looked around and noticed that most of his clansmen were already dead. Even now, the afterimages of the swords would occasionally land on the bodies of the Tulip family clansmen. Wherever the swords passed, more than one person would be decapitated. Wisps of sword light. They were like golden rivers that hung high up in outer space. Native. Heiyu's eyes widened. This native was actually able to split his attention to kill his clansmen while fighting him. This was a huge humiliation to him. Native. Die. Heiyu's eyes were bloodshot. He was originally a controller, and he controlled the earth element of the world, which was the earth element of the 5 elements of the 5 elements. In outer space, controllers could also control elemental energy in outer space, but in the Milky Way, he couldn't sense the connection between the elements and him. Thus, when he first arrived in the Milky Way, he was clearly the strongest of the group, but he didn't do anything. It wasn't until 3 of his trusted subordinates died that he realized he wanted to kill Su Yun, but Su Yun managed to escape. He was filled with hatred. Even though he managed to capture the life healer, he didn't know where his clansmen were taken by the man in the bamboo hat. The sword-wielding black-robed man also seemed to have disappeared, and was nowhere to be found. Over the past year or so, he had been in a state of constant regret. All he wanted to do was to tear those natives to pieces. Yi Zichen was the only Earth native he'd met during that time. He was determined to kill him. Who would have thought that this person did not use his full strength to fight with him? Instead, he took advantage of the chaos to kill the Tulip family members. Native. In his rage, Yu seemed to explode with all of his life's potential. He moved as fast as a beam of light, his dagger stabbing viciously towards the back of Yi Zichen's head. Puff! Yu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He silently lowered his head and saw that there was a golden sword in his chest. The sword had landed precisely on his life crystal core. Yi Zichen silently leapt in front of him, as if killing him was as easy as looking at flowers on horseback. Yi Zichen didn't even look behind him. Instead, he condensed another longsword in his left hand and attacked the other Tulip family clansman. Earth! Yu's voice transmission stopped abruptly. Yi Zichen gripped his sword with both hands, his gaze as cold as ever. He flashed through the Tulip family clansmen like lightning. From start to finish, he had never taken Yu seriously. The only difference between Yu and the Tulip family clansmen was that Yi Zichen could tell that he was their leader. The only thing that was similar was that he was still going to die. Killing Yu might cause the Tulip family clansmen's morale to plummet, but that was of no use to Yi Zichen. It didn't matter if their morale was high or if they were defeated. In his eyes, they were already souls who could never return to their homeland. Lord Yu is dead. Administrator Yu is dead. Countless Tulip family clansmen panicked. They all wanted to run away like madmen, but Yi Zichen was like a ghost, following them from outer space and reaping their lives. For 3 whole days, the entire outer space seemed to have turned red. The Tulip family members led by Yu and the guards stationed outside the dark spot had all died. None of them had survived the dark spot in the solar system. All of them were beheaded. Wire, who had come with Yu, watched in terror. She had hidden herself on a life star after Yu's death. So long as she closed her eyes, she could imagine the tragic deaths of her clansmen, as well as those frighteningly emotionless eyes. You! All of a sudden, a voice transmission appeared in her mind. Wire, who was curled up behind a boulder, looked up and saw a pair of emotionless eyes. Don't kill me! Wire hugged her head and immediately felt her entire body fly up from the ground. Approximately a few seconds later, she arrived in front of Yi Zichen. She could see that Yi Zichen was covered in blood, and could smell the nauseating stench of blood. This blood. It was all left behind by Tulip family clansmen like Wire, who wanted to hide on life stars or resource stars. Don't kill me! I've never killed any of your clansmen. What's more, when Yu wanted to hunt down your clansmen, I tried to stop him. Hunt down? Yi Zichen looked down at Wire, who was kneeling on the ground. Yes, your clansmen have already left the Milky Way galaxy. All the slaves left in the Milky Way are from other life stars. Wire trembled. They've left? Yi Zichen nodded silently. Where are your clansmen still stationed? At Half Moon. All of the Tulip family clansmen in the Milky Way galaxy had died. That Wire. After killing the last of them, she joined the rest of the Tulip family clansmen in death. Yi Zichen had fulfilled his promise outside the spatial dark spot. He'd already taken back the Milky Way galaxy, but the humans on Earth, the immortal planet, and the divine planet had already evacuated. Weiwei. The time elemental fairy appeared. What is it? Can I trouble you to show me what happened 2 years ago? Yi Zichen stood in space and asked. Of course. Mo Weiwei didn't hesitate. She simply wanted to see the past rather than reverse time. For a mature time elemental fairy like her, This was all too easy. Countless scenes flashed before Yi Zichen's eyes. He saw Mingbu's invasion with his own eyes, then saw Su Lu'er and the others repel him, then saw Earth defend with energy cannons, then saw the humans evacuate the Milky Way galaxy and encounter He Yu's forces. The Tulip family. Yi Zichen clenched his fists and looked down at the corpses of the Tulip family clansmen. Bailey, find out where the Tulip family is. I'm going to exterminate their entire clan. Chapter 2586. Clan Extermination. I admire you. Bailey, who was sitting on Yi Zichen's shoulder, did not try to comfort him. Instead, his words were filled with praise. You actually didn't come to persuade me. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Why would I do that? Bailey shrugged. Everything should be done according to your heart. Why must you be bound by the rules of the universe? Rules were made to be broken. Moreover, the Tulip family massacred your people. Why do you have to tolerate it? If the Milky Way had your boldness back then, they wouldn't have ended up like that. That's right. Why should we tolerate it? Yi Zichen clenched his fists and stared coldly at the corpses of the Tulip family clansmen in the Milky Way. They deserved to die. Why did the indigenous planet have to be trampled upon? They could burn, kill, and plunder in the Milky Way galaxy, but couldn't they take back the Milky Way galaxy? But before that, can we get out? The Milky Way doesn't have a virtual network. Outside the dark spot in the Milky Way, Yi Zichen sat in the spaceship like a withered tree, his eyes devoid of any spiritual energy. 5 days. Bailey's search had yet to produce any results. The main reason was that, in the human universe, there were many families with the name Tulip. He needed to investigate these families and find the tulip that invaded the Milky Way galaxy. During this period of time, there was still no news of the Great Sage and the others. Fortunately, Yi Zichen saw them successfully leave the Milky Way galaxy. If nothing unexpected happened, they should be safe. However, due to the Tulip family's presence, they didn't dare show themselves. Never mind. Once Yi Zichen exterminated the Tulip family, they'd come out when they knew it was safe. What worried Yi Zichen more was Su Yun's situation. In the scene that Mo Weiwei saw when she reversed time, he killed He Yu's 3 most capable subordinates while he was seriously injured, and then disappeared from the Milky Way galaxy. Yi Zichen was very concerned about his situation. There was also Su Yan. She was still in the Tulip family, and her situation was unknown. Found it. All of a sudden, Bailey, who had been staring intently at the surroundings, shouted excitedly. Yi Zichen, who sat in the spaceship, felt a ripple in his heart. He glanced at Bailey, and an image appeared in his mind. Target confirmed. This is the Tulip family that we are looking for, Bailey said to Yi Zichen with a solemn expression. That's right, this Tulip family cannot be underestimated. Their overall strength is rather terrifying. They have over 20 million clansmen, of which 6 million are at the universe level. They also have many generals and commanders. The most important thing is that they have titled warriors in their family. 6 earls and 2 marquises. A duke. If you go alone, who said I would? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and slowly clenched his fist as he looked at the information regarding the Tulip family in his mind. You want to use the power of the Virtual World Corporation? Bailey said. No need. Yi Zichen shook her head. What else do you have? Belle's eyes were filled with surprise. Don't tell me you're going to touch the spies of the Master of the Galaxy? Don't they not approve of you? Don't tell me you're thick-skinned enough to ask them for help? I don't think they'll agree. Do you know an organization called mercenaries? You want to hire from the Mercenary Union? Don't joke around, the Mercenary Alliance isn't on your side. Belle shouted at Yi Zichen. Why do you want to hire from him? Can't freelance mercenaries do? With that, Yi Zichen received a message in the virtual network. Steel bar. Easy. How is it? Did you find him? Yi Zichen replied. According to your request, This is the contact information I got from my friend. Yi Zichen sent another message after Steelbar's message. If you go find him, he might accept your request, which is, just say what you want to say. Yi Zichen smiled. Are you really going to do that? Steelbar, who had already returned to the Steelbar household, frowned as he looked at the chat box in the virtual network. I don't know what you're going to do, but I can roughly guess what you're going to do from the fact that you want to hire these desperados. Yi Zi, no matter how chaotic the human race is right now, openly killing people is still a very serious problem. You don't show yourself, okay? After returning to the universe from the dark spot in the Milky Way, Belle immersed herself in her search for the Tulip family. Meanwhile, the first thing Yi Zichen did was find Steelbar and ask him for the contact information of the Universal Mercenaries. He had never heard of the existence of these people anywhere, but he believed that they definitely existed. He knew very well that if he wanted to annihilate the Tulip family, it was definitely not enough. He had to ask for help, whether it was the Virtual Realm Corporation or the Master of the Milky Way's spies. He wouldn't use any of them. If he wanted to solve it, then he would solve it in his own way. You really are willing to worry, Yi Zichen shook his head. Yi Zichen shook his head. Hurry up and give me your contact details. You're my best friend. All of a sudden, Steelbar replied in an emotional tone. Yi Zichen was stunned for a moment when he saw the message, and was unable to send it out for a long time. Yi Zi, I, Steelbar, haven't been in contact with you for long, but you're already the best friend I've acknowledged. I don't want to see anything happen to you, nor do I want to see you do something stupid. Understood. A hint of gentleness appeared in Yi Zichen's eyes. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. What's more, I'm the Lord of the Virtual Realm Corporation. Would I give up the glory of the latter half of my life to do something hot-headed? Give me the contact information. Steelbar sent Yi Zichen a friend's name card in the chat. After that, Yi Zichen also received an email. 60 million universe credits entered his account. This is all of my savings. The cost of hiring assassins and mercenaries is very high. I'm currently in the Steelbar family, and the situation within the human race is very sensitive. From the family's current standpoint, I am unable to provide you with any help from the family. Just treat this money as my meager contribution. Steelbar also sent a message. Yi Zichen let out a deep sigh when he saw the message. Thanks. Come back alive. That was Steelbar's final message. Yi Zichen looked at it deeply, then slowly closed his eyes, clicked on the name card Steelbar sent him, and sent him a friend request. Steelbar practically instantly accepted the request. Yi Zichen looked at the contact in his friend list, then clicked open their chat and sent the Tulip family's information that Bailey had confirmed for him. Annihilate the family. Do you accept? Chapter 2587. Universe 2. Although Yi Zichen hadn't been here in years, his absence hadn't affected the Upheaval Alliance's development in the slightest. Not only had it not affected them in the slightest, it was developing at breakneck speed. Who would have guessed that just a few years ago, this planet had been a primordial era, a place devoid of science and technology? Now it was filled with high-tech products. Energy vehicles and spaceships shuttled through the sky. Buildings towered into the clouds. They looked dreamy and dreamy. At the very center of the planet, a palace hovered in midair. A temporary palace floated in the air. It was also the most prominent building of this life star. It ruled over the entire planet. Even the Upheaval Alliance's headquarters on the surrounding planets were located in this palace. This is our attack plan for the next 3 months. Is there a problem? Chicano sat on a crystal chair. In the center of the room was an empty throne, reserved for Yi Zichen, the head of the Upheaval Alliance. Even though he hadn't returned for many years, no one dared to covet that throne. Roughly 30 people sat in this crystal room. Judging from their auras, even the weakest of them was a warlord. Your Excellency Chicano, In 3 months we're going to conquer 90 life planets? On average, we'll need to conquer one every day. The horned, green-skinned man frowned. Is there a problem? Asked Chicano. Given the Upheaval Alliance's current strength, we can do it, can't we? He saw Chicano's expression. The horned man lowered his head. You're right. You've just joined the Upheaval Alliance, so my mission for you is actually fairly simple. If you're curious, you can ask General Han Qing how many life planets they need to conquer in 3 months. Chicano looked them over. You've decided to join the Upheaval Alliance, and you've become generals. In that case, please show me your true strength. You should know that the Upheaval Alliance doesn't lack talented people. Everyone's hearts trembled. They knew very well that Chicano was right. The Upheaval Alliance was now the second largest faction in the Milky Way galaxy. They occupied more than 30,000 resource and life planets, and possessed advanced technology. Even the largest empire in the Milky Way. It was only a matter of time before the Upheaval Alliance conquered it. This was why generals, and commanders all fought to join the Upheaval Alliance. The Upheaval Alliance's future was inevitable. Rest assured, Sir Chicano. Right at this moment, a triangular human stood up in the hall. In 3 months we will conquer 200 life stars to prove the power of our tribe. Let's wait and see. Chicano nodded lightly, and the triangular human waved his hand. Go. It's been hard on you all this time. At that moment, Yi Zichen's figure slowly appeared in the crystal hall. Chicano, who was sitting in his seat, fixed his gaze on the screen. Then, he hurriedly ran down. My lord! When I came here, I took a look at our home planet. It's been built very well. I'm very satisfied. Yi Zichen nodded. I won't be staying for too long this time. Let me ask you, how much money do we have in our treasury? Are you referring to all the resources or cash? Please wait a moment. Chicano seemed to be checking their reserves. Right now, we have about 6,000 primal chaos beasts. 600 billion. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows. What's the current ratio? For the first universe, said Chicano. About 200. Why so little? A few years ago, the ratio was around 3,000. In just a few years, it had dropped to 200? Yes, that's the current ratio. In the past 2 years, the number of humans who'd come from the first universe to the second universe had reached an astronomical figure. Every day, they produced an ocean's worth of capital. This meant that the value of the capital outside the manor would drastically decrease. Right now, it was 200. Tomorrow, it might be even lower. 6,000 primal chaos beasts. 200 was equivalent to 2 million primal chaos beasts. Your Excellency, do you need money? Asked Chicano. Yes, I need 3 million primal chaos beasts right now. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows. Can you bring it out? 3 million. Chicano hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Of course we can, but we need to sell our resources first. No faction would hoard too much money, because money was just a number. What really mattered were resources. Almost all of the Upheaval Alliance's funds were spent on resources. If they sold their resources, then a few million primal chaos beasts could be easily obtained. Then sell them. Yi Zichen didn't hesitate in the slightest. I don't care what you do. I just need to see the money. How soon do you need it? Right now. From Chicano's expression, Yi Zichen could tell that his desperation would cause the Upheaval Alliance enormous losses. But right now, he couldn't care less. Everything he was doing here was for the sake of the Milky Way. If the Milky Way was gone, they were all gone. So what if Yi Zichen had more? So what? The Tulip family had to be destroyed. Only then could the Great Sage and the others return to the Milky Way. Only then would he have news of Suyun. And Su Yen. He had to save her. Please wait a moment. Chicano left the Crystal Palace. Yi Zichen stood silently in his room and waited. 300 trillion. That was the price the mercenary had offered, and there was no room for negotiation. He had to pay in full. It was a tyrannical price. 300 trillion cosmic dollars. To anyone, even a faction, that was an astronomical figure. After all, the Upheaval Alliance controlled over 10,000 planets. Only with enough resources could they fork out that much money. The families of the first universe, having several hundred life stars, was already an extraordinary family. If he offered them 3 million primal chaos beasts, they'd despair. But Yi Zichen had no other choice. Never mind 3 million primal chaos beasts, even if they asked for 5 or 10 million, he'd grit his teeth and cough up the money. About 3 hours later, ding dong! 3 million primal chaos beasts had been transferred to his account. Your Excellency, the money has been transferred to your account. Chicano hurried in. By the time he returned, Yi Zichen had already returned to the first universe. Transferred. Investigate. After transferring the money, Yi Zichen sent a single word to his contacts. About half a minute later. Got it. These are our current coordinates. We'll be waiting here for you. Chapter 2588. Space Travel. Given the coordinates given by the mercenaries, even a spatial jump from the dark universe would take at least half a month. The AI Bailey confirmed the coordinate. The ship was in autopilot mode, heading towards the location the mercenaries had agreed on. During this time, Yi Zichen sat cross-legged in the ship's cabin. Urgency was inevitable. If possible, he wanted to go to the Tulip family's life planet right now and push them into the abyss with lightning speed. Unfortunately, that was how war was. It took time to prepare. Even more time had to be wasted on travel. It was the same for Earth. It was just that compared to the entire human universe, Earth was far too small. Even if the ship could travel faster than light, it wasn't enough for the human universe. Rest for a bit. Bailey looked into Yi Zichen's eyes. You've been busy running around for the Milky Way, so you've been too stressed. We still need about 14 days to get to the coordinate. Get yourself together. If we run into those mercenaries, it might be a fierce battle. Yes, Emperor Star. Go rest. The 5 elements elemental fairies and the time elemental fairies separated from Yi Zichen's body. They'd been residing in Yi Zichen's body this entire time. This was actually a burden. Although it was a good thing, they didn't want to put more pressure on the Emperor Star. Everyone tried to comfort him. Yi Zichen didn't even look up. The moment he pushed himself up, his legs went weak and he nearly fell. The fire elemental fairies hurried over to him, but before they could help him up, Yi Zichen had already silently retreated to the second floor. The elemental fairies and Bailey watched silently. The Emperor Star is fine, right? Little Sister Wind clenched her fist. She'd followed the Emperor Star for so long, but she'd never seen him so dispirited. This incident will definitely be a huge blow to him. The lightning elemental fairies let out a long sigh. Believe in the Emperor Star. The fire elemental fairies watched as Yi Zichen disappeared from their sight. The Emperor Star won't be defeated so easily. With that, he tilted his head and looked at Bailey. Mr. Bailey, may I ask what you meant when you said there would be a fierce battle if we ran into the mercenaries? On the second floor, Yi Zichen sat in the cabin, his eyes lifeless. During this period of time, he had been thinking about a question. Was it really right for him to come to the universe to train? If he had been in the Milky Way galaxy when it was invaded, would the Milky Way galaxy have not fallen into such a state? Yi Zichen, what are you thinking about? Suddenly, Yi Zichen raised his hand and slapped his face. As an expert, you should firmly believe that whatever decision you make is right. What time had it come to? He was still in the mood to ponder over these things. If he hadn't gone to the universe, he wouldn't have known how strong he would be if he had stayed in the Milky Way. If he hadn't gone to the universe, how could he have come into contact with the second universe and obtained his current strength? Not to mention spending 3 million chaos to hire mercenaries. He had only obtained all of these when he went to the universe. Everything had not reached the point of no return yet. The great sage and the others were still alive because of the threat of the tulip family. They had to carefully hide in the universe. In the end, Su Yun had also managed to escape. Although Yi Zichen didn't know how he was doing, he firmly believed that he was still alive. Su Yen, a life healer, had a high status among the human race. From the recordings, he could see that the tulip family treated her with great respect. If nothing unexpected happened, she was definitely still alive. She might have been bound by the tulip family, so she hadn't been happy in the past 2 years. Soon, Yi Zichen would rescue her. Yi Zichen had to take advantage of this opportunity to increase his strength as much as possible. Back in the second universe, Yi Zichen was already at the peak of the universe. Back then, he'd already touched the barrier to breaking through to the champion level. It was precisely because he had to be at the universe level to participate in the genius struggle that he hadn't broken through. In the 5 elements and 8 trigrams diagram. Furthermore, he'd accumulated countless reserves of power. It was like he'd already maxed out his experience points in a game, and he still had plenty left over. All he had to do was think about it. Boom! Violent energy surged from Yi Zichen's body. The people on the first floor subconsciously ran up to the second floor, only to see Yi Zichen sitting cross-legged on the floor, his entire body radiating powerful energy wave. The Emperor's star has broken through. The water elemental sprite raised its eyebrows in surprise. With Emperor Star's strength, he could have broken through long ago. He's just been suppressing himself. The thunder elemental sprite hugged its shoulders. It's good that he's broken through. It saves us the trouble of being careful when we're absorbing elemental energy. It was fine if Yi Zichen didn't go to the 5 elements 8 trigrams diagram. Under the enhancement of the rune stone's genes, Yi Zichen's body was still able to contain the existence of the 5 elemental spirits. But in the 5 elements and 8 trigrams diagram, the elemental spirits had absorbed large amounts of pure elemental essence, and their power was about to reach a saturation point. They also needed to wait for the Emperor's star to break through. Only then would they be able to make further breakthroughs. From this, it could be seen that the existence of the Emperor's star seemed to be a form of restriction for them, but it actually allowed them to better absorb and refine elemental essences, strengthening their own strength. Blindly breaking through could very well lead to an unstable foundation. I just don't know how strong the Emperor's star is. The lightning elemental sprite spoke. No matter what, we can't let the Emperor's star descend. The fire elemental fairy said to the other elemental fairies. Let's also quickly reach maturity. Only when we truly reach maturity can we truly leave the Emperor's star's body. Understood. The elemental fairies left the second floor of the cabin. Bailey stood silently and looked at Yi Zichen and the other elemental fairies for a long time, then revealed a hint of a smile in his eyes. Master of the Milky Way, you should be back now, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Bailey mysteriously disappeared from the second floor of the cabin. Half a month later, in front of a space base station built in space, a silver spacecraft slowly approached the space base station. The base station provided the spaceship with parking space. When the spaceship landed, several experts with cold expressions instantly rushed out from outside the base station. At the same time, Bailey patted Yi Zichen's shoulder. Yeezy, we're here. Chapter 2589. When Yi Zichen stepped out of the spaceship, he had only one thought in his mind. Shock. The spacious docking area. Never mind a single spaceship, even if it was a battleship, it wouldn't be a problem to park dozens of them here. That was indeed the case. There were at least 50 interstellar battleships in the docking area. The docking areas were divided according to the size of the battleship. Yi Zichen's small spaceship seemed rather small in comparison. Boss, this can't be the big client boss was talking about, right? A few Admiral-level experts muttered outside the docking area. Every single one of them was far stronger than Yi Zichen. Even though Yi Zichen had already broken through to the warlord level, the weakest of them was still an admiral. "Shut up," one of the commanders transmitted. "Since he's here, he's naturally the big client boss was talking about. Can a warlord afford 3 million primal chaos crystals? That's not for us to discuss," the commander frowned. The commander-level expert frowned and transmitted his voice. "We only need him to be our big customer. Don't forget that we only recognize money here. Anyone who pays is the boss. Even if he's a domain-level expert, he'll still enjoy the highest treatment." "Yes, sir." The generals nodded. At that moment, the commander walked up to Yi Zichen. "May I ask if you are Mr. Yi?" The 2 admiral-level experts, followed by a dozen or so warlords, arrived before Yi Zichen, their faces wreathed in smiles. That's right. Yi Zichen didn't feel flattered at all. They were just commanders. It wasn't like he hadn't even seen sovereigns before. He actually hoped that the people receiving him were a bit stronger. Only then could he rest assured that they really could destroy the Tulip family. "Hello, esteemed Mr. Yi. My name is Deng Lang. I'm a commander of the 9th layer. This is my assistant, Ning'an. These admiral-level experts are members of our team. We're the Heaven-Stealing Mercenary Group's 13th team. You'll be joining us for the rest of the journey." Deng Lang's gaze was filled with goodwill. Yi Zichen nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Yi, let's set off now." Yi Zichen watched as the 2 commanders headed for the docking area's warship. "Are we going to take a warship?" "Yes, Mr. Yi." Deng Lang smiled and said, "Riding on a battleship is faster. If we fly there, it'll be a waste of your time." "Where are we going?" "To see our leader, of course." With that, the man seemed to understand Yi Zichen's confusion. "Mr. Yi, we're still going to this space station. But this is just a parking area of our space station. As you can see, this place is actually quite desolate." What did that mean? Was their space station so big that they needed to take a battleship to reach it? Just how big was this space station? One had to know that a spacecraft could cross the Earth in less than half a minute. "Mr. Yi, please." Yi Zichen's heart was filled with shock as he followed them into the warship. The 2 admiral-level experts entered the cockpit, then continued to explain to Yi Zichen. "It seems like Mr. Yi did not understand our mercenary group in advance." "Yes." Yi Zichen nodded. "Then I truly admire Mr. Ye's courage. He was willing to transfer 3 million primordial chaos to our mercenary group under these circumstances." The man's eyes were filled with admiration. "While we're on our way to the main base, I can give Mr. Yi a brief introduction of our mercenary group." "All right. Let's start with our space station." The warship had already risen into the air. The man pointed at the parking area below. "This is our parking area number 9. According to our customers' locations, we will provide them with different parking areas. We have a total of 24 parking areas like this. The parking area is the outermost area. It's also the weakest in terms of defense. As you can see, there are less than 2,000 interstellar energy cannons around the parking area." Less than 2,000 of them. After all, the entire Earth only had 1,500 of them. When the man said less than 2,000, it seemed like he was complaining that there were too few of them. Also, he used the word talent so well that he gave off the aura of a nouveau riche. The parking area is also part of our space station's 6th ring area. The 5th ring area further in is our space station's combat and defense area. The number of interstellar energy cannons in the entire area is about 1-2 million. Yi Zichen's heart trembled, and he let out a deep breath. Further in is our residential area, which is also our 4th ring. Those who live in this area are all universe levels, warrior levels and admiral levels. You are our high-level customer, we won't be sending them to battle this time, so we won't be bringing you there. How many people live there? Asked Yi Zichen. Mr. Yi, that's our mercenary group's secret, said the man with a smile. But you can make a rough estimate. The fourth ring area is roughly the size of a tenth of a life planet. What did that mean? Was he trying to say that the population was roughly the size of a tenth of a life planet? All right, Mr. Yi, we're here. At that moment, the man smiled, and the warship slowly descended from outer space. This is our third ring area. This is also the area where you'll be accepted for your mission. I'll take you to see the person in charge of this area. Is there more inside? Asked Yi Zichen. Yes, the man nodded. The waiter nodded and said, Second ring and central ring are also our mission contact areas. However, your mission level can only go up to here, so I can't take you to the central area. Heavens! 3 million primordial chaos was only a peripheral mission for them. Just what kind of mercenary organization is this? Their overall strength is comparable to the 8 major figureheads. Mr. Yi, please wait a moment. Suddenly, the man raised his hand to signal Yi Zichen to wait. The person in charge is currently discussing with a customer. I'll take you to the resting area to rest first. There's someone else? That's a common occurrence, the man nodded with a smile. At the time you're here, we have at least 10 odd missions in the middle of discussion. Please rest for a moment, someone will inform you when you're ready. If there are no other questions, then my service to you ends here. I'll go and receive the next customer. Chapter 2590. In the resting area, Dang Lang led his subordinates away. Yi Zichen, who was sitting in the resting area, was shocked to the point of no return. It was a space station as big as several life stars. 3 million chaos was considered an entry-level business. While he was here, he was negotiating over a dozen missions at the same time. If these missions were calculated according to 3 million chaos, then it meant that this space station had tens of millions of chaos in its account, and this was still a conservative estimate. What mercenary organization did Baal recommend me? Yi Zichen truly felt an indescribable shock. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, even if the great sage and the others had told him, he wouldn't have believed it. Yi Zichen's property in the second universe. It was impossible for it to be tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of universe credits. In his opinion, among the human race, this kind of income was already very good. However, compared to the heaven-stealing mercenary group, this kind of income was already very good. It paled in comparison to a great wizard. Perhaps the leader here had already earned tens of thousands of primordial chaos in the time it took for him to yawn. Bailey, how is it? Did you find any news about the heaven-stealing mercenary group? Yi Zichen tilted his head and asked. Bailey frowned. No. Never mind Yi Zichen, who had lived in the universe for less than 10 years. Even Bailey. He had lived in the machine race for tens of thousands of years. He knew countless secrets of the human race. He didn't know that there was such a mercenary organization among the human race. He also wanted to understand everything. However, even with Yi Zichen's current status in the virtual network, Bailey was unable to find any information regarding the heaven-stealing mercenary group. There wasn't even a brief introduction. The leader of this heaven-stealing mercenary group is definitely not simple. Bailey frowned. I know that even if you don't tell me. To be able to own a space station of this scale, how could the leader of such a mercenary organization be a simple person? You might not understand what I mean. Bailey stared at the empty virtual network. What I'm talking about is not simple. I'm talking about his status in the human race. Even with your Majesty's status, you can't find the existence of such an organization. Think about how high the level of confidentiality is. But Baal recommended this person to me. Yi Zichen asked. In terms of status in the Virtual Realm Corporation, Bar was definitely inferior to Yi Zichen. He was just a direct descendant of the Steel family. It would be a joke if he could defeat the Virtual World Corporation. Even though Bar had gotten this information from someone else, he wouldn't tell anyone who didn't have access to this kind of high-level information. Since Ba-Er knew all of this, It proved that the sky-thieving mercenary group was not classified information in the human race. However, there was still nothing in the virtual network. This is the scariest part. Bailey let out a deep breath. There are two possibilities. The first possibility is that the higher-ups of the human race know about them, but they are purposely cleaning up any information about them on the internet. The human race is tacitly approving of their existence. Another possibility is that the Mercenary Alliance is hacking into the virtual network to wipe out their information. The former should be more likely. Yizichin asked. I think so too. Bailey nodded. If it's the latter, then this organization is too terrifying. Moreover, as long as the humans know about it, the higher-ups of the human race will not be kept in the dark. Hello. At that moment, a creature with red skin and only one eye walked over from the resting area. One of his eyes. It wasn't that his other eye was injured, but he only had one eye. Yizichin subconsciously paused. He nodded lightly. I'm from the fire salamander race. The newcomer seemed to have sensed Yizichin's surprise, so he explained without any negative emotions. Our clan is a half-human race, and we live in a rather remote area. Many humans don't even know of our existence. I see. Yizichin nodded again. My name is Kakaruchi. The fire salamander man spoke. Yizichin intentionally did not say his full name. He always felt like he should be wary of people who intentionally tried to hit on him. I don't have any other reason for coming here. I just saw that you've been sitting here for a long time. This should be your first time here. On the right-hand side, there are many beauties from different galaxies massaging you. In front is the gourmet area. The chefs there are all high-class chefs from the Cancer Galaxy. Everything here is free. You can try it out. Thank you, but it will be my turn to discuss the quest in a while. I will wait here for a while. Yizichin asked. Human friend, you have to know that you are a customer here. Kakaruchi shrugged. You have the highest status here. Even the king-level managers should be waiting for you, and not you waiting for them. The heaven-stealing mercenary group is both the most reasonable and the most unreasonable group of people. Since you are their customer, they will give you the highest status and enjoyment. Of course, you are not allowed to harm anyone here, not even the lowliest of attendants. If you do that, then even if you are an overlord, the people here will judge your situation and decide whether you live or die. Kakaruchi pointed at the humans who were not even at the domain level. Kakaru pointed at a few humans in the distance who didn't even have a domain level. Take them as an example. They don't have citizenship in the human race, so it's legal for anyone to toy with them, right? That's right. Yizichin nodded. But if you are here, even if you are an overlord, you will be punished if you ask them to do something they don't want to do, Kakaruchi shrugged. Also, you don't have to be so nervous. You are absolutely safe here, just like me. If I wanted to kill you... Yizichin's heart trembled and he instinctively frowned. Kakaruchi instantly laughed. Don't be so nervous, I was just joking. If I had such a thought, I would have died the moment I had such a thought. Everyone who comes here will interact with each other. Because those who can run into each other in the same area are people with considerable strength or wealth, this is also a good place to make friends. You came here to make friends with me? Yizichin frowned. Of course. Kakaruchi shrugged. Why else would I come here? Even if you are only at the warlord level and I am a count level, it doesn't seem like we should interact. But the entrance fee is 1,000,000 primordial chaos. Since you have that kind of wealth, you are worth making friends with. Everyone here thinks the same way. It's not just me. Chapter 2591. Expand my social circle? Yizichin frowned as he looked at Kakaru, whose eyes were filled with sincerity. He didn't act too warmly. Yizi, get to know him more. Bailey's voice sounded out in Yizichin's sea of consciousness. Why? No matter how sincere Kakaru was, he still felt a bit of resistance towards someone who took the initiative to get to know him. He didn't believe that a stranger would treat you with sincerity in a place so cold and scheming, a place so cold that it made you tremble in fear. He didn't really want to look into his heart. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart. Do you think he's trustworthy? Of course not. Bailey's voice sounded out in Yizichen's mind. Bailey's voice sounded out in Yizichen's mind. But there's one thing. He understands the heaven-stealing mercenary group very well. If we want to understand more about this place, he's a very good choice. What's more, interacting with people in the universe isn't a bad thing. There are many times when strangers like them are more likely to become future allies. In the human race, many people are like this. They can open their hearts to strangers, but they are always scheming against the people around them. Why is that? Expressing friendliness to strangers, but being on guard against the people around them. Yizichen didn't really understand this sort of thinking. Is it that hard to understand? Bailey's voice rang out once again. Soon after, he understood. Perhaps your way of thinking has something to do with your life. You're rather fortunate to have met a lot of true friends who are willing to be with you. In the universe, there are very few friends like that. The main reason for this is that compared to the Earth you used to live on, the universe is much bigger. There are more temptations, and the population base is much larger. Let me give you a very simple example. In order to help Yizichen understand more clearly, Bailey used the ancient dynasties of Earth as an example. The princes of the palace. Very few of them could treat each other sincerely. They fought and schemed against each other, and in order to obtain the throne, they would not hesitate to kill each other. Even if it was their father. There were many who killed their fathers to seize the throne. However, they were very willing to make friends with people they had never met before, or people they had only met by chance. Why? This was because they knew very well that these people had no influence on their throne. In other words, they had no direct conflict of interest. It was very likely that they would become his helpers. This situation was the same in the universe. In the human race universe, a slightly larger clan or clan would have at least 100,000 or 1 million clansmen. They were very different from the Aborigines. This was because most native planets lived in groups because their strength made it impossible for them to split up. In the face of death and extinction, they had to be of one heart and one mind. It was normal for life stars in this cosmos to compete for resources. Therefore, the people around them were all competitors. Subconsciously, they were all enemies, even though they were related by blood. Of course, this was also the survival of the fittest competition. It allowed the development of the human race universe to get better and better, and the overall strength of the human race in the universe to become stronger. The potential disadvantage was that this kind of competition would create cracks within the human race. Now, the human race had fallen apart. In fact, it was inevitable. Previously, the stability of the human race had been maintained by the Milky Way Master of the Milky Way galaxy. This was because the Milky Way Master had done many races of the human race a favor. However, this favor was limited to the Milky Way Master. When the Milky Way Master disappeared and the Milky Way galaxy perished, this balance was broken, and the division naturally followed. Kakarui was very likely to be one of the victims. He might very well be one of the victims of the family competition. Of course, this wasn't absolute. It was normal for humans to be jealous of those close to them and respectful of those far away. Jealousy with conflicting interests. Respect without conflicting interest. At that moment, Yizichen and Kakarui were standing in the resting area. They had no interactions, no conflicts of interest, and their statuses were balanced. Kakarui would come to befriend them later. It wasn't without reason. Then should I leave my contact information with him? Yizichen raised his eyebrows. Although Bailey was an AI, he was still a prince of the machine race. But at the end of the day, he was a prince of the machine race. His understanding of the universe was far deeper than Yizichen's. Yizichen accepted his opinions to a large extent, and when faced with some problems, he would ask for his opinion. To Yi Zichen, Bailey was both a teacher and a friend. "I think that's fine," said Bailey. Bailey's voice rang out. "There's no harm in leaving your contact information. He can't influence you. If you really think there's a problem with him later on, we can just cut off contact." "All right, I'll do as you say." During this time, Kakarui stood silently to the side, his smile still on his face. Yi Zichen confirmed that he was about to contact Kakarui. Yi Zichen looked up and smiled warmly at him. Seeing Mr. Ye's smile, "It seems I've succeeded in befriending you." Kakarui snapped his fingers, and a few crab-like demi-humans ran over with 2 cups of wine in their hands. "Here's to our hasty friendship." Kakarui's use of hasty was very precise. Yi Zichen couldn't help but smile and shake his head. He clinked his cup with Kakarui's, then drained it in one gulp. The crab-like demi-humans carefully put their cups away and hurried away. "Mr. Yi, how many days are you planning on staying?" Kakarui sat down in the resting area, his eyes filled with curiosity. "I might not be able to stay too long." "Mr. Yi, are you preparing to go out in person?" Kakarui revealed a surprised expression. "Won't that be too dangerous?" "You know what I'm going to do." "Mr. Yi, I told you a long time ago that our goals for coming here are more or less the same. Otherwise, how could we possibly run into each other in the heaven-stealing mercenary group?" Kakarui smiled and shrugged, then looked at the space station. "You should know that the heaven-stealing mercenary group is famous throughout the universe for killing people and stealing their possessions. There's nothing they don't dare to do here. As long as we give them enough money, they can do anything. What's more, their completion rate is 100%. 100%. Yi Zichen frowned. "Yes, they never fail," Kakarui smiled. Kakura laughed. "This is also why they are trustworthy. To put it simply, as long as we have enough money, we have already succeeded in what we want in our hearts. There's no chance of anything going wrong." "Can we kill even the supreme beings?" "Yes." Kakarui nodded without any hesitation. "As long as you have money, enough money, you can get whatever you want here," Wang Yao said. Chapter 2592. Obtain everything you want. These words were actually a little too irresponsible. If it was really as Kakarui said, then the heaven-stealing mercenaries really were Aladdin's magic lamp. Wiping it could grant a wish. The only difference was that wiping the magic lamp was free, while the heaven-stealing mercenaries required an equivalent amount of money. Even so, all of this was simply too shocking. If it was as he said, could the heaven-stealing mercenaries really be strong enough to destroy the 8 Titans? Take the Virtual World Corporation, for example. Yi Zichen couldn't think of anyone in the universe capable of doing so, and yet, just now, he'd spoken so confidently that he agreed with the idea of killing a supreme expert. "Kakarui, are you sure you're not joking? A supreme expert. That was already the peak of the human race. It was above the level of a hegemon. You could count the number of supreme experts on one hand. Killing someone like that was nothing but a fantasy." "I'm not lying," said Kakarui seriously. "The heaven-stealing mercenaries really do have that kind of power. Perhaps it's because you've only just started working with them, so you don't have a true understanding of their strength. Once you're done, you might believe me." What's there to even compare? To Yi Zichen, destroying the Tulip family wouldn't be difficult at all. It was just that he wasn't strong enough. If he really had enough power, he wouldn't need to be too strong. Even if he was a supreme or a titled king, destroying the Tulip family wouldn't be difficult at all. A supreme expert. The difference in difficulty between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. "Do you think supreme experts can't die?" Kakarui shrugged. "Then why is it that the human universe has existed for so long, yet there are only so many supreme experts? Where did the previous supreme experts go? In the history of the human race, there have only been 20 or so supreme experts. You're saying the heaven-stealing mercenaries did all of that? Yi Zichen's heart trembled. If that was really the case, the heaven-stealing mercenaries were truly terrifying. No. Of course not. Kakaru shook his head. The universe is actually far larger than we can imagine. There are many places where even supreme experts might die. I just want to explain to you that even utmost beings can die. Since utmost beings can die, then the heaven-stealing mercenary group has the possibility of killing them. Of course, you'll have to give them enough money to kill an utmost being. I'm guessing that the figure will definitely be astronomical. I don't agree with what you said. It felt like Kakaru's respect for the heaven-stealing mercenary group had reached a crazy level. The Most High Being would die. The heaven-stealing mercenary group had the strength to kill a supreme being? According to what you're saying, if I have enough money, I can destroy the Virtual World Corporation? Yi Zichen asked. Why not? Kakaru still had that matter-of-fact expression on his face. Then let me ask you this. The Milky Way back then, its existence was comparable to the combined strength of several giants, but why was the Milky Way destroyed in the end? According to your theory, it's impossible to destroy such a galaxy. You're giving me this example again. Could it be that the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy was caused by thieving heaven? Yi Zichen sneered. What was inconceivable was, Kakaru's expression was one of tacit agreement. When Yi Zichen noticed Kakaru's expression, his gaze instantly tensed up. Could it be? I heard so. Kakaru shrugged. Of course, this is just a rumor. However, many people believe that the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy is related to the heaven-stealing mercenary group. Hearing those words, Yi Zichen and Bailey couldn't help but look at each other. Can you be more specific? Sorry, I actually don't know the inside story. Kakaru gave a wry smile. I'm just an Earl. How could I possibly know that sort of thing? However, many people thought so because besides the heaven-stealing mercenary group, no one had the power to destroy the Milky Way galaxy. You have to know, the Milky Way galaxy, the Virtual World Group, the Universe United Bank and the Universe Mercenary Alliance, even if the three great Leviathans joined forces, they still wouldn't be a match for the Milky Way galaxy. Why was the Milky Way destroyed? Isn't this something worth pondering? Could it be that he had found his enemy? This organization and the Archmoon Galaxy. Don't think like that. Kakaru suddenly spoke up. The heaven-stealing mercenary group doesn't belong to any side, nor does he lean towards any side. His goal is to do things for money. No matter what he does, 1 second he can help the Virtual World Group attack the Archmoon Galaxy, the next he can be hired by the Archmoon Galaxy to attack the Virtual World Group. That's the kind of organization that values money above all else. There's actually an organization like that in this world? Bailey couldn't help but shout. Then isn't he afraid of being surrounded by humans? You're a machine, right? Kakaru immediately recognized Bailey's identity. Yi Zichen subconsciously raised his hand to block Bailey. Kakaru smiled. It's fine. It's just the machine race. I've seen a lot of them. Mr. Yi, there's no need to worry too much about them. Let me continue with my friend from the machine race. If it's a normal organization, they might indeed face this problem, but the heaven-stealing mercenary group definitely won't. Why? Bailey didn't understand. After the heaven-stealing mercenary group accepts a mission, they will carry it out to the end. Take the Virtual World Group and the Archmoon Galaxy, for example. The Virtual World Group hired the heaven-stealing mercenary group to destroy the Archmoon Galaxy's 3 cosmic countries, so they will carry it out to the end. If they were hired by the Archmoon Galaxy to attack the Virtual World Group, they will carry it out to the end. Kakaru nodded. In other words, our missions don't overlap? Asked Bailey. No. They can overlap, said Kakaru with a wry smile. They can attack from both sides at the same time. I've experienced that before. Don't even mention it, it was miserable. I spent 2 million primal chaos crystals to attack my royal brother's life star, and he hired people here to attack me. In the end, both of us suffered heavy losses, and the money was earned by them. Then why did you come looking for them? Bailey twitched his mouth. I had no choice. Sometimes, when you have nowhere else to go, you have no choice but to come here. Kakuruyi let out a long sigh. That's because this place truly grants all requests. Neither Bailey nor Yizichin really understood what Kakuruyi was thinking. Kakuruyi didn't explain any further. Instead, he smiled and said, "What did you come to ask for this time? Did you want to exterminate an entire clan or kill an expert?" When he saw that Yizichin didn't answer, Kakuruyi smiled and shrugged. "I can tell you right now, I'm here to ask them to kill my 3 royal brothers." "You exterminate your entire clan?" Yizichin's eyes flashed darkly. "Exterminate your entire clan. Leave no one alive." Chapter 2593. When Yizichin mentioned exterminating the entire clan, the murderous aura all over his body was like a flood that had burst out of a dam. Kakeru couldn't help but be taken aback. In that instant, even though he was an earl, he felt a chill that made him shudder. How deep was this hatred and resentment? To be able to make a person's resentment towards him to such an extent, it seems like the things that this family has done have caused Mr. Yi to abhor them. After half a minute, Kakeru shrugged and smiled. "Then I have to congratulate Mr. Yi for finding a good mercenary group." "Really?" Yizichin's eyes were still filled with darkness. If it was any other mercenary group, they might have the strength to wipe out an entire clan. However, whether or not they could really wipe out an entire clan is still a question. This is because the easy way to exterminate a race is to destroy it. The real difficulty is when there are only a few clansmen left. In our human race universe, it is very difficult to find a few people. Yizichin naturally agreed with that. Clan extermination. As long as they knew the location of this clan, they could send out a crushing force to destroy this clan. But no one dared to be certain that there wouldn't be any fish that slipped through the net. For example, there were a few who were not in the family star system, or those who had fled after learning the news. It was very difficult to find such a person. The great sage and the others were like that. Heiyu expended a large amount of manpower, but was still unable to find the great sage and the others. Because the universe was too big, this was not like a game of hide and seek. Instead, it was the entire human race as a whole to capture these people. The effect was naturally very poor. Actually, Yizichin already had an acceptable standard when he arrived, so it wouldn't be a problem to run a few. However, after hearing Kakurui's words, he felt that the heaven-stealing mercenary group wasn't that strong. He possessed the strength to truly annihilate an entire clan, leaving not a single one alive. If it were other mercenary groups, it would be normal for some of them to slip through the net. Even if you asked them to kill all of them, they wouldn't be able to do so. Even if they told you that they killed all of them, you wouldn't be able to confirm it. Kakeru said, "Can we really eliminate the root of the problem here?" "That's right." Kakurui smiled and nodded. "Your request is to exterminate the entire clan and not leave a single one alive, so he will do it. Whoever you want to live, they can live. I'm absolutely trustworthy." "How did you know?" Yizichin asked. Just as Kakurui had said before. If the heaven-stealing mercenary group had not been completely annihilated, then they would not be able to confirm it even if they said that they had killed all of them. "I'll experience it myself," Kakeru replied with a smile. "As I said earlier, I came back to invite them to kill my 3 royal brothers. Then you should also understand that I was born in an imperial family." "I know." Yizichin nodded. The internal strife of an imperial family is far more vicious than the strife of other families. Every step we take is difficult and we have to be careful. We can't be careless. I once came here to ask them to exterminate their entire clan. Not the entire clan, but everyone who is related to my fifth brother. If I kill one less, this matter will definitely be exposed, and until now, no one will know that I did it. The competition between the imperial families was indeed bloody. From what Kakeru had just said, about killing his brother and exterminating his clan, he didn't feel the slightest bit of emotion. It was as if all of this was natural. It was his personal experience. Yi-Zichin approved of her. Looks like this heaven-stealing mercenary group really does have a lot of ability. Have you been here many times? Yi-Zichin could tell that Kakeru really did understand this place. About 5 or 6 times. Kakeru shrugged. 5 or 6 times, which meant that the heaven-stealing mercenary group had helped him carry out that many missions. For the sake of the throne. Rivers of blood really did flow. Then how long did it take you to get here? I remember you saying that your family was at the edge of the universe. 3 days. Yi-Zichin was instantly stunned. 3 days? How could they possibly get here faster than him? The location of the Milky Way galaxy was actually in a relatively central position, in the middle of the entire universe. The edge? 3 days. You didn't do any homework before coming here? Kakeru exclaimed in surprise. No. Then you dared send over 1,000,000 primordial chaos to them? Mr. Ye's boldness is truly astonishing. 1,000,000 primordial chaos was a small number to anyone. He hadn't even done his basic homework. From the very beginning, Kakeru had felt as if Yi-Zichin knew nothing, yet he'd still come here. He never would have guessed that he really didn't know anything. This space station's coordinates aren't fixed. It's moving. No. It's jumping. Kakeru explained. This space station will perform a space jump every 15 seconds. The space coordinates they provided us are also the coordinates that they have speculated. Many times there's a deviation in time and you'll find that there's nothing at the coordinates, so they'll send someone to pick you up. A spatial jump every 15 seconds. Yi-Zichin subconsciously looked out into outer space. In other words, I'm no longer at my previous coordinates? Of course. Kakeru nodded. The first time I came back, I was astonished as well. When I arrived, I was at the edge of the upper layer of the universe, but when I prepared to leave, I was at the edge of the lower layer. I stayed here for about 3 days before jumping back. Random jumps. That's right. There's no logic or pattern to it. It's a completely random jump, said Kakeru. Each jump takes us through 15 or more galaxies. In the time it took us to speak, we might have already passed through several cosmic countries. Yi-Zichin subconsciously glanced at Bailey. Only then did he realize that Bailey's eyes were filled with terror. He was completely dumbfounded. He'd never heard of such technology. Randomly jumping through space in 15 seconds and traveling through over 10 galaxies at that. If anyone in the human race could master this sort of technology, it could be used in surprise attacks. Who could defend against it? Since it's a random jump, how did they calculate the coordinates of our arrival? Yi-Zichin frowned. That, I'm not sure. Kakeru looked up at the behemoth in front of him. The heaven-stealing mercenary group has always been a mystery. Whether it's their space station or their full strength, no one knows. And no one dares to guess. As soon as he finished speaking, Kakeru saw a staff member walking over from afar. It seems he's here to pick up Mr. Yi. How about we exchange contact details? Chapter 2594. From the very beginning, Bailey had mentioned to Yi-Zichin the idea of leaving Kakeru as a way to contact him. Now that Bailey mentioned it, Yi-Zichin didn't refuse, and added Kakeru's contact information into the virtual network. Yi-Zichin did learn quite a bit of information from Kakeru that he didn't know. Not just for the heaven-stealing mercenary group in this space station. He believed that Kakeru must have grasped a lot of information about the universe. If he were to come into contact with him, he might be able to find out more information about the universe. What's more, Yi-Zichin really wasn't affected at all. In a situation where there was no conflict of interest, making friends with a few experts in the universe was not a bad thing. It was just as he said. Customers like them had very high statuses. The person who'd come to inform Yi Zichen was a marquis, but when he noticed that Yi Zichen was still talking to Kakaru, he stood silently off in the distance and waited. There was not the slightest hint of unhappiness or impatience in his expression. It was as if, to him, all of this was a matter of course. Even though he could tell that Yi Zichen was just a minor general, and that he was, after all, a titled marquis, one of the highest levels of humanity. Mr. Yi, I can see that you are also very eager, so I won't waste your time here. We can contact each other through the virtual network in the future. Kakaru nodded towards Yi Zichen with a smile, while Yi Zichen nodded back. Goodbye. I hope Mr. Yi will have a good experience. Kakaru stood in the resting area and silently watched Yi Zichen leave. During this period of time, another customer arrived at the resting area. When he saw Yi Zichen, he nodded at him in a friendly manner. It didn't take long for him to come into contact with Kakaru. It's just like what he said. People who come here will take the initiative to express goodwill to you and even interact with each other. Yi Zichen glanced at the two people who were already chatting. I'm more interested in the background of this mercenary group. Bell furrowed his brows as he looked at the space station in front of him, his heart filled with curiosity. There was absolute wealth here. Yi Zichen had also noticed that in less than half an hour after Yi Zichen and Kakaru's conversation, someone else had already arrived. The fact that he was able to come here meant that he had paid in full. Moreover, the entry threshold here was 1 million chaos. If it wasn't for the members of the mercenary group, no one would know how many people had already paid but had yet to arrive. In other words, the daily income of this place was more than 100 million chaos crystals. Even the virtual world company, the Universe United Bank, these kind of giants of the universe, they probably didn't have the ability to pull in money like this. The capital reserves here alone were enough to stir up a storm among the human race. More importantly, this place had absolute power. According to what Kakaru had said, this place even had the power to stir up the entire universe. It had the power to kill a supreme being, destroy the Milky Way galaxy, and the 8 great martialists. However, it did not belong to any faction, so the humans in the universe did not dare to find trouble with it. Of course, it was possible that others wanted to find trouble with it. Even if they wanted to attack it, they would first need to be able to grasp the position of the space station. A 15-second space jump. The distance of the jump was more than a dozen galaxies. No one would be able to send an army to attack this place under such circumstances. Furthermore, this technology. Bell did not even dare to think about it. The machinery race was famous for their technology, and they relied on the advanced technology of their race to suppress the human race for tens of millions of years. Even the machinery race did not have such technology. Could it be a space elemental fairy? Bell placed his hand on his chin as he thought of a certain possibility. Even the space elemental fairy king shouldn't be able to do this, right? He needs to rest. What's more, elemental fairies are so prideful. How could they be like robots and jump to the space station every 15 seconds? What's more, this space station is comparable to a slightly smaller galaxy, carrying such a huge object. Stop thinking about it. Yi Zichen patted Bell's head with a smile. Aren't you curious about this place at all? Bell looked up at Yi Zichen with a frown. Also, don't pat your head. I'm the noble prince of the machinery race. All right, Your Highness, I was wrong. Yi Zichen shrugged helplessly with a smile. It's impossible for me to not be curious about this place. Not to mention Yi Zichen. Anyone would be filled with curiosity about this place after knowing the strength of this mercenary group, and would want to understand this place in a deeper level. But the problem was, how would you understand? Yi Zichen didn't know where Kakarui found out about the strength of the mercenary group and the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy. But just now, he said, he heard about the destruction of the Milky Way galaxy from someone else. Rumors spread from mouth to mouth. That's how things work sometimes. When someone blindly worships a certain person or organization, they'll subconsciously exaggerate the information they hear. Yi Zichen didn't think that everything Kakarui said was necessarily the truth. Also, for more advanced information, you'll need to get in touch with higher-level people. Perhaps if Yi Zichen went up another level, he'd be able to obtain more information. He would be able to obtain more information, but the prerequisite was that he had the key to go there. In other words, he had enough money. He was in the region he was in. The entry level was 1 million primordial chaos. 3 million primordial chaos was still here. Then he wanted to go to the upper levels. He would definitely need more than 3 million primordial chaos. If he exchanged all the resources in the second universe for money, how much could he have in reserve? He estimated that he wouldn't be able to get there in the near future, and he didn't want to return to this place. Thus, he naturally had no way of understanding this place. Let's just treat this place as a mysterious organization. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. Yi Zichen shrugged with a smile. Being mysterious means that we can't find out. Our goal here is to annihilate the Tulip family. Everything else isn't important to us. It won't be our enemy in the future, nor will it become our ally. Why not? Bailey frowned. What if the Tsangyue galaxy comes here and asks them to attack your Milky Way galaxy? Yi Zichen froze inexplicably. Before long, he let out a long sigh and shrugged. There's nothing we can do about it. We'll just fight to the death. That's why, said Bailey sternly. You don't have the confidence to face this place, so why did you leave this potential threat alive? If I didn't, would I have destroyed this place? Yi Zichen was speechless. Bailey's eyes suddenly lit up with excitement. How about we turn it into an ally? Chapter 2595. Become an ally. Yi Zichen tilted his head and looked at the palm-sized Bailey. He really hadn't expected someone as small as him to have such a big heart. Can you tell me where your courage comes from? If he really could ally with such a colossus, Yi Zichen would do everything in his power to get it. But that wasn't realistic at all. From Kakarui's words, Yi Zichen could tell that the mercenary corps wasn't too biased toward either side. As for the Milky Way galaxy, it was possible they'd sent people to help destroy it. The master of the galaxy was a nice guy, so there was no way he could count on that. So, how could he ally with a faction like this? Up until now, he was only at the warlord level. Or perhaps Prince Bailey was just too charismatic. Why not? When Bailey finished speaking, Yi Zichen actually did not feel any hint of retreat from his gaze. He wasn't joking. He was dead serious. Friend, have you lost your mind? Said Yi Zichen sternly. Where on earth do you get your confidence to ally with them? You. What's wrong with me? Yi Zichen frowned and considered his situation. He was now the leader of the Virtual World Corporation, the future master of the Milky Way galaxy, and the lucky guy with 6 elemental fairies, a seed left behind by the master of the galaxy. Or perhaps a warlord-level adventurer. Regardless of his title or identity, Yi Zichen didn't think he had any chance of becoming an ally of the heaven-stealing mercenaries. You're the leader of the Upheaval Alliance. Suddenly, Bailey's voice rang out in Yi Zichen's mind. Yi Zichen instinctively looked up. The Marquis was still patiently waiting outside the lounge. Even though Yi Zichen was less than 10 meters away, he didn't rush him. Yi Zichen smiled and nodded, indicating for him to wait a moment. Yi Zichen transmitted to Bailey. What about the leader of the Upheaval Alliance? That's your unique advantage, said Bailey seriously. The Upheaval Alliance now has over 10,000 planets. Even though you're doing poorly in the first universe, you might think you're doing well in the second universe. You can go to the virtual network and take a look. All the big families have invested a lot of resources, manpower, and material resources into the second universe, but how many of them have done what you have done? Some families don't even have a territory that belongs to them, let alone a life planet. So what? A large part of the reason why those families couldn't expand their strength was because their strength was suppressed in the second universe. If the universe really fused, they would be able to split the territory at lightning speed. Right now, they were still in the probing phase. Only after the fusion would the resources truly flow towards the interior. At that time, be it resources or funds, it would be a huge impact on the second universe. That was when their status would truly be decided. One wrong step leads to many wrong steps. One step ahead and you're way ahead. Bailey squinted his eyes. Now that you have an absolute advantage in the second universe, even the 8 great tycoons don't have, why are you belittling yourself? Don't tell me you really think that you'll be beaten back to your original state after the fusion? If it's that simple, why are those families fighting to get in there and wasting resources on it? Isn't it fine if they just wait for the fusion? Yizichin subconsciously touched his neck. What was frightening wasn't just Bailey's whimsical thoughts. What was frightening was that Yizichin actually felt like he was being persuaded. Am I really that strong right now? Even the 8 great tycoons can't compare to me. I don't know about the future, but after the fusion, the 8 great tycoons' resources and strength will definitely shake the balance of the second universe. They should be able to develop rapidly, but you definitely won't be too far behind them. Even if they want to develop, they'll need to expand bit by bit. You've already established their advantage of having over 10,000 life planet. They'll catch up, but you'll be developing as well. Bailey replied seriously. Think about it. You have over 10,000 life planets in the past 2 years, but have you ever considered that your development isn't even, but rather, it's incrementally increasing? The more life planets you have, the more resources you have, the more you'll naturally expand. Right now, the 8 great tycoons can't expand because the human race has stabilized, but that's not the case in the second universe. Oh. Yizichin rubbed his chin. He completely understood what Bailey meant. To put it simply, the first universe was a huge cake. It had already been divided. Each of the great tycoons had a piece of the cake, and some of the smaller ones had already been taken clean by the other families. The second universe was a new cake. Right now, everyone was dividing the cake. The natives of the second universe wanted it, and so did the humans of the first universe. Even the people from the first universe were like ants to Yizichin. Yizichin himself was an adult. He could devour the cake much faster than those ants. Most importantly, the cake was still complete, and there was no limit to the amount of cake he could take. If everything progressed in a good direction in the end, he might even take more than the great tycoons. You're right, Yizichin scratched his head. Yizichin grabbed his hair. At that moment, he was completely moved by Bailey's words. Think about it. The first universe merging with the second universe is inevitable, so doesn't that mean the heaven-stealing mercenary group needs the second universe's territory? Bailey's eyes flashed with wisdom. No need. Before Bailey could finish, Yizichin replied. Look, this is a space station. What does it need territory for? That's right. All of a sudden, Bailey slapped his head. Then it seems like allying with the heaven-stealing mercenary group is rather difficult. Just pretend like I didn't say anything just now. Don't, I really think it's possible. This time, Yizichin's tone was very certain. Even if it doesn't need territory, does it need resources or money? It doesn't. Bailey shook his head. How could such a rich organization lack resources and money? Even in the second universe, it would still be rich. Anyways, I feel like it's possible. Yizichin didn't know where his confidence came from, but he patted Bailey's head. Thank you for making me so arrogant. With that, Yizichin looked up at the Marquis, who had been waiting for a long time, and nodded with a smile. Sorry for the wait. This is what I should do, the Marquis said humbly. The Marquis expert said humbly, "If all the guests are busy, then let's discuss the details." Yi Zichen's eyes were filled with confidence as he looked at the space station in front of him. "Pull them in as allies. I must." Chapter 2596. At the end of the long hallway, Yi Zichen followed the Marquis and arrived in front of a sealed room. "Manager." The door of light in front of the room opened. The Marquis stood by the door and gestured for Yi Zichen to enter. "Please enter." Yi Zichen nodded, then walked in. "Hello, respected Mr. Yi." What surprised Yi Zichen was that the person sitting there was not a human, nor did he look like a half-beastman. His entire body was burning with flames. He had wings. He looked a bit like a flamingo. "Hello." Yi Zichen calmed himself down, then nodded towards Flamingo. "I invited you here for no other reason than to confirm the mission you want us to carry out." Fiery Bird said, "May I ask if you want to exterminate the Tulip family?" "Yes. The scope of your extermination is the direct line of descent, branch families, and all members of the Tulip family's bloodline. Or is it just the Tulip family itself, including the guest chamberlains and dependents?" Fiery Bird asked again. "Is there a difference?" "Of course." Flamingo flapped his wings. As he did so, Yi Zichen could feel the heat of the wind blowing towards him. Soon after, a virtual image appeared in the room. The red dots above are the areas where the members of the Tulip family are active. They are the members of the Tulip family with the blood of the Tulip family flowing through their veins. This also includes the members of the Tulip family who have left the Tulip family, married, dispatched, or married into other families. Not long later, more blue dots appeared on the virtual image. These are all members of the Tulip family, including guest chamberlains, dependents, and all members of dependent families. From the looks of the dots, the areas where the red and blue dots overlapped were relatively small compared to the total area. The blue dots occupied a larger area of the map. Actually, this was a choice between the bloodline and outsiders. "I can't exterminate them all?" Yi Zichen frowned. Flamingo looked up at Yi Zichen, but didn't seem surprised by his viciousness. "Yes. The fee you paid is the fee for exterminating the entire family. Our mercenary group will be thorough when we carry out the extermination. If you want us to kill all of them, that's fine too." "Then why did you ask that question just now? Isn't this a little simpler?" Fiery Bird seemed to smile. "According to your request, you are prepared to personally go into battle. After you leave, my assistant will bring you to meet the troops that are going into battle." "All right. Before that, I have something to say," Flamingo said. "The Tulip clan has a life healer named Su Yen. Are we going to kill her too?" "Of course not." Yi Zichen's eyes widened. "All right, I'll make some changes now. You can leave now." Fiery Bird said, "After the mission is over, you can choose to return to us and leave at a location that is closer to your star system, or you can leave immediately after the mission is over. The decision is yours." The simple discussion ended. The Marquises were still waiting outside. "Mr. Yi, are you going to rest here for a while, or are you going over now?" "I'm sorry. I haven't introduced myself to you yet. I'm your guard and messenger, Zhu Meng, 9th level Marquis. I will ensure your safety on this trip." Zhu Meng bowed deeply towards Yi Zichen, then placed his hand on his chest. "You aren't the general?" Yi Zichen was shocked. "How could I be?" Zhu Meng smiled. "You will understand after you see it for yourself. Your mission is to lead king-level troop. Mr. Yi, do you want to rest or now?" "Now." "Rest?" If it was possible, Yi Zichen really wanted to go to the Tulip clan right now. He even cleaned up the Tulip clan's base. "Mr. Yi, please come with me." He still needed to take the interstellar battleship. "Mr. Yi, I'll tell you a bit while we're on the way. I don't know if you know, but our space station is always changing space." Zhu Meng asked. "I know." Kakaru had already told him that the space station would warp through space every 15 seconds, and travel 10 odd solar systems. It's great that you know, Zhu Meng smiled. We'll go to the location you set off from later. We will need to wait for a while because it would be too far if we set off directly. Understood. The warp was completely random, but the Tulip Clan's location was fixed. It was very possible that their space station was extremely far away from the Tulip Clan. If they directly left, even if they rode a warship through the dark universe, it would waste a lot of time. Thus, they might as well wait for the space station to warp to a location closer to the Tulip Clan. That way, they could save a lot of time and energy. Mr. Yi, you can ask me any questions. I can ask. Yi Zichen tilted his head and looked at Zhu Meng. I do have a lot of questions. Please ask. Zhu Meng said. How did you determine the future coordinates? Isn't the space station's warp completely random? How did you determine when and where you will land, and when will this space station reach the Tulip Clan's location? I don't know, Zhu Meng shook his head. We're just following orders. The higher-ups tell us when and where to wait, and we just follow the instructions to the designated place. As for the rest, only higher-ranked employees know. Isn't your position high enough? Yi Zichen was shocked. Mr. Yi, you overestimate me. Zhu Meng shook his head with a wry smile. In the human universe, a marquis might already be a decent level of strength, but in our mercenary group, I don't even have a proper position. I'm just a deputy. Those who can have proper positions are all above the king level. What's more, my superior is a level 9 king title, and is only a step away from the king level. Those who can have official positions are all king class and above. Furthermore, my superior is a 9th stage Kinkenford, just one step away from becoming a king. However, as you can see, he is only in charge of a 3rd-tier mission. The person in charge of level 2 missions needs to be at least a level 5 king lord, while the person in charge of level 1 missions needs to be a hegemon lord. Your mercenary group is stronger than the 8 giants, right? Yi Zichen was shocked. Perhaps. Zhu Meng nodded after a brief hesitation. It's mainly because I don't know the true strength of our mercenary group. I'm just an employee. Yi Zichen frowned when he heard Zhu Meng's words. Then, how did you join here?